Deep beneath the shifting sands of time, archaeologists have uncovered objects that shouldn't exist. Artifacts so impossible, so perfectly crafted, so utterly bewildering that they challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. Tonight, we're diving into discoveries that have left the world's brightest minds scratching their heads in confusion. Picture this, a 5,000-year-old disc carved with mathematical precision that modern engineers struggle to replicate. Ancient batteries that still function after millennia. Swords that refuse to rust despite being buried for thousands of years. Maps showing lands that hadn't been discovered yet. These aren't fantasy tales or science fiction stories. These are real artifacts, sitting in museums right now, silently mocking our understanding of history. What if I told you that buried beneath our feet lie secrets that could rewrite human history entirely? Objects that suggest our ancestors possessed knowledge and technology we've only just begun to understand. Artifacts that whisper of lost civilizations, forgotten sciences, and mysteries that grow deeper the more we study them. In this journey through archaeology's most baffling discoveries, we'll explore 20 artifacts that refuse to give up their secrets. Each one represents a puzzle piece to a picture we can't quite see, a question mark in the timeline of human achievement. Some will challenge your beliefs about ancient capabilities. Others will leave you wondering if we've been telling ourselves the wrong story about our past all along. So settle in, because what you're about to discover might just change how you view the ancient world forever. These aren't just old objects gathering dust in museums. They're evidence of something extraordinary. Something that suggests the line between impossible and ancient reality is far thinner than we ever imagined. Let's begin with an artifact so strange, so perfectly engineered, that when archaeologists first laid eyes on it, they had no idea what they were looking at. The Sabu disc, ancient Egypt's impossible design. In the scorching heat of 1936, British archaeologist Walter Brian Emery was methodically excavating a tomb near Memphis, Egypt. This wasn't just any burial site. It belonged to Prince Sabu, a nobleman from Egypt's earliest dynastic period, dating back over 5,000 years. As Emery's team carefully cleared away millennia of sand and debris, they expected to find the usual array of pottery, jewelry, and ceremonial objects that typically accompanied royal burials. What they found instead defied every expectation. Resting among the familiar artifacts was a peculiar disc carved from a single piece of schist, a delicate metamorphic stone. At first glance, it might have seemed unremarkable, just another ancient vessel or ceremonial plate. But as Emery examined it more closely, the true strangeness of the object became apparent. The disc measured roughly 2 feet in diameter, surprisingly thin for its size, with an intricate design that looked like nothing archaeologists had seen before. At its center was a circular opening, surrounded by 3 thin, gracefully curved blades that spiraled outward like the petals of some geometric flower. The entire structure rested on a slender rim, elevating it slightly from whatever surface it was meant to occupy. To modern eyes, the Sabu disc resembles something between a steering wheel and a propeller, certainly not what you'd expect to find in a tomb from humanity's earliest civilizations. The craftsmanship was undeniably sophisticated, displaying a level of precision and mathematical understanding that challenged conventional assumptions about ancient Egyptian capabilities. Here's where things get truly puzzling. Nobody knows what it was for. The disc bears no inscriptions, no hieroglyphs, no symbols that might hint at its purpose. Unlike other ceremonial objects from the period, which are typically adorned with religious imagery or royal cartouches, the Sabu disc is elegantly, mysteriously blank. Its form follows no known pattern in Egyptian art or religious symbolism. Archaeologists have proposed numerous theories over the decades. Some suggest it might have been a ceremonial incense burner, with the curved blades designed to create airflow. Others theorize it could have been part of a larger mechanical device, perhaps a component in some ancient machine we can't even imagine. The most conservative interpretation sees it as simply a decorative object, a testament to the skill of ancient artisans. But here's what makes the Sabu disc truly extraordinary. Modern stone carvers, equipped with advanced tools and techniques, find it incredibly difficult to replicate. The precision required to maintain perfect symmetry while carving such delicate curves from hard stone is a feat that challenges even contemporary craftsmen. How did ancient Egyptians, supposedly working with copper tools and stone hammers, achieve such mathematical perfection? The disc's threefold symmetry and precise angles suggest an understanding of geometry that wasn't supposed to exist in ancient Egypt. The craftsmanship implies not just artistic skill, but engineering knowledge, the ability to visualize complex three-dimensional forms and execute them flawlessly in stone. Today, the Sabu disc sits in Cairo's Egyptian Museum, drawing puzzled stares from visitors and researchers alike. It represents one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries, an object so perfectly crafted, so elegantly designed, that it seems to belong to a different era entirely. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient Greece's lost computer. If the Sabu disc challenges our understanding of ancient engineering, our next discovery obliterates it completely. In the spring of 1900, Greek sponge divers seeking shelter from a violent storm made what would become one of archaeology's most mind-bending discoveries. Anchored near the small island of Antikythera, the divers explored the seabed and stumbled upon an ancient shipwreck. Among the scattered bronze statues and luxury goods destined for wealthy Romans, they found something that shouldn't have existed for another 1,500 years: a complex mechanical computer. Initially dismissed as a corroded lump of bronze, the Antikythera mechanism revealed its secrets only after months of careful study. X-ray imaging and painstaking reconstruction showed an intricate network of over 30 bronze gears, precisely calibrated and arranged in a configuration that modern engineers recognize as remarkably sophisticated. This wasn't just any mechanical device. It was an analog computer designed to predict astronomical events with stunning accuracy. The mechanism could calculate the positions of the sun, moon, and known planets, track lunar phases, predict eclipses, and even account for the complex irregularities in the moon's orbit. All of this was achieved through pure mechanical engineering, without any external power source except human operation. The implications are staggering. The Antikythera mechanism demonstrates a level of technological sophistication that historians believed didn't exist until the development of mechanical clocks in medieval Europe. Yet here was proof that ancient Greeks, over 2,000 years ago, had created a device whose complexity wouldn't be matched again until the Renaissance. The mechanism's dials were inscribed with detailed instructions in ancient Greek, confirming it wasn't just a one-off curiosity, but a practical tool. Users could input a date and receive precise astronomical information, essentially a Bronze Age smartphone for celestial navigation and calendar keeping. What's perhaps most remarkable is that this represents just one artifact. The sophistication of the Antikythera mechanism suggests an entire tradition of mechanical engineering that has been almost completely lost to history. Were there workshops throughout ancient Greece producing similar devices? Were there instruction manuals, apprenticeship programs, entire industries we know nothing about? The mechanism forces us to reconsider everything we think we know about ancient technological capabilities. If Greeks could build analog computers 2,000 years ago, what other achievements might have been lost to time? Stone spheres of Costa Rica. Precision without purpose. Our journey through impossible artifacts now takes us to the lush rainforests of Costa Rica, where in the 1930s, workers clearing jungle for banana plantations stumbled upon something extraordinary. hundreds of perfectly spherical stone balls scattered across the landscape. These weren't natural formations or roughly carved approximations. They were geometrically perfect spheres, ranging in size from a few inches to over 6 feet in diameter, with some weighing as much as 15 tons. Crafted from granodiorite, one of the hardest rocks on Earth, these spheres display a level of precision that defies explanation. Modern measurements using laser technology have confirmed what seems impossible. Many of these spheres are perfect to within millimeters of true geometric accuracy. Creating such precision today requires advanced machinery, diamond-tipped tools, and computer-guided equipment. Yet these spheres were carved by the indigenous Dequis culture between 700 and 1530 CE, using what archaeologists assume were primitive stone tools. The mystery deepens when we consider their purpose. Unlike other Mesoamerican stone carvings, which typically serve clear ceremonial or decorative functions, these spheres seem to exist purely as exercises in geometric perfection. They bear no inscriptions, no carved decorations, no obvious symbolic meaning. Some researchers have proposed they served as astronomical markers, pointing to celestial alignments or marking important calendar dates. Others suggest they were status symbols, with larger, more perfect spheres indicating higher social standing. The most intriguing theory proposes they were part of a sophisticated mapping system, with their positions encoding geographical or astronomical information we haven't yet learned to read. What makes the Costa Rican spheres particularly baffling is the technical challenge they represent. Granodiorite is an incredibly hard stone that chips and fractures easily. Shaping it into a perfect sphere without power tools would require not just tremendous skill, but revolutionary techniques we can't even imagine. The fact that hundreds of these spheres exist, each demonstrating the same impossible precision, suggests this wasn't accidental achievement, but systematic mastery of advanced stoneworking methods. Many of the spheres have been found far from any known granodiorite quarries, raising additional questions about how these multi-ton objects were transported across difficult terrain. The logistics alone would have required sophisticated engineering and social organization that challenges our understanding of pre-Columbian American societies. Perhaps most frustratingly, the culture that created these masterpieces left no written records explaining their methods or purposes. The Dequis people had no written language, no surviving oral traditions that explain the spheres, no archaeological context that provides clear answers. They created these impossible objects and then vanished from history, leaving behind only their enigmatic stone perfection as evidence of capabilities we still can't fully comprehend. The Baghdad Battery, ancient electricity. As we continue our exploration of impossible artifacts, we encounter something that shouldn't exist in any ancient civilization. Evidence of electrical technology dating back over 2,000 years. In 1936, while excavating near Baghdad, archaeologists discovered a peculiar clay jar that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about ancient science. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, just another storage vessel from the Parthian period around 250 BCE. But inside this humble clay pot lay something extraordinary. A copper cylinder containing an iron rod, all sealed together with asphalt. The configuration was unmistakable to anyone familiar with basic electrical principles. Fill the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, and you have all the components necessary for a galvanic cell. Essentially, an ancient battery capable of generating electrical current. When modern researchers constructed replicas using the same materials and design, they successfully produced measurable electrical voltage. The current wasn't strong enough to power modern devices, but it was definitely present, proving that whoever created these objects understood principles of electrochemistry that weren't supposed to be rediscovered until the 18th century. The implications are staggering. If ancient peoples could generate electricity, what were they using it for? The most commonly proposed theory suggests electroplating, using electrical current to coat objects with thin layers of precious metals. This would explain why some ancient artifacts display unusually even distributions of gold or silver coating that seem impossible to achieve through known ancient techniques. But the mystery extends beyond just one artifact. Several similar devices have been found throughout the ancient Middle East, suggesting this wasn't an isolated experiment, but possibly part of a broader technological tradition. Were there ancient electrical workshops? Did metallurgists 2,000 years ago routinely use electrical processes we assume are modern innovations? The Baghdad battery forces us to confront an uncomfortable possibility: that ancient civilizations possessed scientific knowledge that was subsequently lost, forgotten, or deliberately suppressed. It represents a technology so far ahead of its supposed time that it barely fits into our understanding of historical development. What other electrical applications might have existed in the ancient world? Could there have been lighting systems, communication devices, or manufacturing processes that used principles we consider thoroughly modern? The Baghdad battery opens a window into a possible past where the line between ancient and advanced becomes surprisingly blurred. These artifacts we've explored so far, the impossible precision of the Sabu disk, the mechanical sophistication of the Antikythera mechanism, the geometric perfection of Costa Rica's stone spheres, and the electrical principles of the Baghdad battery, represent just the beginning of our journey through archaeology's most perplexing discoveries. Each one challenges fundamental assumptions about ancient capabilities and forces us to reconsider the story we've been telling ourselves about human technological development. They suggest that perhaps the path from primitive to advanced wasn't as linear as we've assumed, and that knowledge and capabilities we consider modern might have much deeper, more mysterious roots than we ever imagined. But these are just the first pieces of a much larger puzzle, one that grows more intriguing and more challenging with each discovery we examine. The Roman dodecahedrons, geometry without explanation. As we delve deeper into history's most confounding mysteries, we encounter artifacts that seem almost deliberately designed to puzzle future generations. Scattered across what was once the mighty Roman Empire, archaeologists have discovered over 100 small bronze objects that defy every attempt at explanation. These are the Roman dodecahedrons, hollow, 12-sided geometric forms, each face bearing a circular hole of different sizes, with small spherical knobs decorating every corner where the edges meet. They range from palm-sized to slightly larger, crafted with the precision and attention to detail we'd expect from Roman metalworkers. Yet here's what makes them truly extraordinary. Not a single Roman text mentions them. Not one inscription explains their purpose. Not one piece of historical documentation acknowledges their existence. Think about that for a moment. The Romans were meticulous record keepers. They documented everything from military campaigns to grocery lists, from architectural techniques to philosophical debates. They left behind detailed accounts of their tools, their weapons, their household items, their religious practices. But these carefully crafted objects, found from Britain to the Balkans, from Germany to Switzerland, exist in complete historical silence. The holes on each face vary in diameter, leading some researchers to propose they served as measuring instruments for craftsmen or architects. But the irregularities and inconsistencies between individual dodecahedrons cast doubt on their effectiveness as precision tools. Others suggest they might have been religious or ceremonial objects, perhaps used in divination rituals or as symbols of cosmic harmony. The 12-sided form does echo certain mystical traditions, but no archaeological context supports this interpretation. More practical theories imagine them as components of surveying equipment, astronomical calculators, or even ancient gaming pieces. Some researchers have demonstrated that they could theoretically function as knitting tools for creating gloves or other fitted garments, but each theory fails to fully account for their widespread distribution, consistent form, or complete absence from historical records. What makes the Roman dodecahedrons particularly maddening is their obvious intentionality. These weren't accidental creations or natural formations. Someone designed them. Someone spent considerable time and skill crafting them. Someone found them valuable enough to produce in significant quantities across a vast geographical area. Yet their purpose has been so completely erased from history that we can only guess at their function. The Lycurgus cup, ancient nanotechnology. Roman mysteries continue to astound us as we examine an artifact that demonstrates technology we barely understood until the late 20th century. The Lycurgus cup, crafted in the 4th century CE, appears to be an ordinary Roman drinking vessel decorated with scenes from Greek mythology. But this cup harbors a secret that modern science has only recently begun to comprehend. Under normal lighting conditions, the cup appears jade green, its surface opaque and beautifully detailed, with reliefs showing King Lycurgus trapped in grapevines as punishment for opposing the god Dionysus. But illuminate the cup from behind or within, and something extraordinary happens. It transforms into a luminous ruby red, glowing with an inner fire that seems almost supernatural. This dramatic color change, known as dichroism, results from microscopic particles of gold and silver dispersed throughout the glass at the nanometer scale, each particle smaller than the width of a human hair. These nanoparticles interact with light differently depending on its direction, creating the spectacular optical transformation that captivates viewers today, just as it must have amazed ancient Romans nearly 2,000 years ago. Here's what makes this discovery so remarkable. Nanotechnology, the manipulation of matter at the atomic and molecular scale, was supposedly a 20th century innovation. Yet Roman craftsmen somehow achieved precise nanoparticle distribution in glass, creating effects that modern engineers struggle to replicate consistently. The level of control required to achieve the right particle size, distribution, and concentration suggests knowledge of material science that seems impossible for its time. How did ancient glassmakers stumble upon or deliberately engineer this effect? The Romans were certainly skilled with glass, producing beautiful and varied colors through mineral additives. But the Lycurgus cup goes far beyond simple coloration. It represents manipulation of matter at scales that require understanding of optical physics and materials engineering that wouldn't be formally recognized for another 15 centuries. The cup's mythological imagery adds another layer of mystery. Lycurgus's transformation from defiant king to trapped victim mirrors the cup's own transformation from green to red. Was this deliberate symbolism, with the color-changing property specifically chosen to reflect the story being told? The precision required to achieve both the narrative artwork and the nanotechnological effect in a single object suggests planning and skill that borders on the miraculous. The Piri Reis map, impossible geography. Our journey through archaeological impossibilities now takes us to 16th century Constantinople, where an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis created a map that continues to baffle historians and geographers 5 centuries after its creation. This isn't just another example of ancient cartography. It's a document that appears to show geographical knowledge that shouldn't have existed. Drawn on gazelle skin in 1513, the Piri Reis map depicts portions of the Atlantic Ocean with startling accuracy, showing the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and South America in remarkable detail. But here's where things become truly strange. The map includes what appears to be the coastline of Antarctica, complete with geographical features that match the continent's actual topography beneath its ice sheet. This presents an enormous historical problem. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, over 3 centuries after Piri Reis drew his map. More puzzling still, the coastline depicted matches not the ice-covered Antarctica we know today, but the actual land surface beneath miles of ice. Details that weren't mapped until the 20th century, using advanced seismic equipment and satellite technology. Piri Reis himself claimed he compiled his map from various ancient sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. These original charts have long since vanished, leaving us to wonder about the geographical knowledge they contained. How could ancient navigators have possessed such accurate information about lands that were supposedly unknown and unexplored? Conventional explanations suggest the southern landmass represents a distorted interpretation of South America's coastline, stretched and misshapen through cartographic error. But the details are troublingly accurate for a mistake. The map shows bays, inlets, and geographical features that correspond remarkably well with actual Antarctic topography. The map forces us to confront uncomfortable possibilities about ancient navigation and exploration. Were there seafaring civilizations capable of reaching Antarctica and mapping its coastlines before ice covered the continent? Did ancient knowledge networks preserve geographical information that was later lost to mainstream history? Or does the map represent evidence of exploration capabilities we've systematically underestimated? The Voynich manuscript, Language of the Unknown. Deep in Yale University's rare book library rests perhaps the most enigmatic text ever created, a medieval manuscript that has resisted every attempt at translation for over a century. The Voynich manuscript, dating from the early 15th century, presents us with something that shouldn't exist. A systematic, consistent language that appears to follow linguistic rules, yet remains completely incomprehensible. The manuscript contains roughly 240 pages of vellum, covered with an unknown script accompanied by bizarre illustrations. The text flows naturally across the pages, organized in paragraphs and sections like any normal book. The writing appears alphabetic, with distinct characters that repeat in patterns, suggesting genuine language rather than random symbols. Yet despite decades of analysis by the world's best cryptographers and linguists, not a single word has been definitively decoded. The illustrations are equally baffling. Detailed botanical drawings show plants that don't match any known species. Astronomical diagrams feature unfamiliar celestial arrangements. Bizarre creatures populate strange landscapes. Groups of naked figures engage in mysterious activities within complex networks of pipes and pools. The images feel familiar yet wrong, as if glimpsed through the lens of an alien perspective. What makes the Voynich manuscript particularly maddening is its internal consistency. This isn't random gibberish or artistic fantasy. It displays statistical properties consistent with natural language. Word frequencies follow expected patterns. Characters appear in logical combinations. The text shows clear structure and organization. Every indication suggests we're looking at genuine written communication in an unknown language. Modern computational analysis has confirmed the manuscript's linguistic authenticity while deepening its mystery. The text behaves like real language, but matches no known writing system, ancient or modern. It's as if someone created an entirely new language, complete with grammar, vocabulary, and syntax, then used it to write an extensive treatise on unknown subjects illustrated with impossible imagery. Theories about the manuscript's origins range from the scholarly to the fantastic. Some propose it represents a lost dialect or cipher used by medieval scholars to conceal sensitive knowledge. Others suggest it might be the work of an elaborate medieval hoax, created to deceive collectors or demonstrate intellectual prowess. More exotic interpretations imagine connections to lost civilizations, alien contact, or dimensions of reality beyond normal human experience. The Nebra Sky Disk, Bronze Age astronomy. Our exploration of impossible artifacts now takes us to the heart of Bronze Age Europe, where in 1999, treasure hunters discovered an object that rewrote our understanding of ancient astronomical knowledge. The Nebra sky disk, found buried in Germany's countryside, represents the oldest known realistic depiction of the night sky, and it's far more sophisticated than anything we expected from Bronze Age peoples. The disk itself is striking in its apparent simplicity, a bronze circle adorned with gold symbols representing celestial bodies, a crescent moon, what appears to be a full moon or sun, and scattered dots representing stars are arranged across its surface with two distinctive gold bands along its edges. But this seemingly straightforward astronomical map conceals knowledge that challenges everything historians thought they knew about Bronze Age capabilities. Detailed analysis by astronomers has revealed the disk's stunning accuracy. The arrangement of symbols matches precisely with astronomical observations of the night sky over Central Europe, roughly 3,600 years ago. The scattered gold dots correspond to actual star formations, with one grouping clearly representing the Pleiades, a cluster historically significant for ancient societies in tracking seasonal changes. This level of celestial detail indicates Bronze Age Europeans possessed far more sophisticated astronomical knowledge than previously imagined. The disk appears to function as a complex calendar system, capable of marking important seasonal events like solstices and equinoxes. Some researchers believe it could even predict eclipses and track lunar phases with remarkable precision. The implications are staggering. Bronze Age societies were supposedly simple agricultural communities with basic understanding of seasonal cycles. Yet the Nebra sky disk demonstrates knowledge of complex astronomical relationships, mathematical precision in celestial mapping, and artistic skills in metalworking that rival anything produced in more advanced civilizations. The disk's creation required not just observational astronomy, but sophisticated metallurgy. The bronze alloy and goldwork display technical mastery that suggests established traditions of both scientific observation and advanced craftsmanship. This wasn't accidental achievement, but systematic development of knowledge and skills over generations. What other astronomical knowledge did Bronze Age Europeans possess? Were there schools of astronomical observation, calendrical systems, or navigation techniques that have been lost to history? The Nebra sky disk opens a window into a possible past where the boundaries between primitive and advanced become surprisingly blurred. These artifacts, the geometrically perfect Roman dodecahedrons, the nanotechnologically enhanced Lycurgus cup, the geographically impossible Piri Reis map, the linguistically mysterious Voynich manuscript, and the astronomically sophisticated Nebra sky disk, each represent achievements that seem to transcend their historical contexts. They force us to question fundamental assumptions about the linear progression of human knowledge and capability. Perhaps our ancestors possessed sciences and technologies that were subsequently lost, forgotten, or deliberately concealed. Perhaps the story of human advancement is far more complex, mysterious, and remarkable than we've ever dared to imagine. But these revelations have only begun to scratch the surface of archaeology's most bewildering discoveries. The Ica stones, messages from impossible times. As we venture deeper into the realm of archaeological impossibilities, we encounter artifacts that don't just challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. They assault it with such force that mainstream science has largely chosen to ignore them entirely. Hidden away in a small museum in Peru lie thousands of carved stones that, if authentic, would shatter everything we believe about human history. The Ica stones were brought to international attention in the 1960s by Dr. Javier Cabrera, a respected physician who amassed a collection of over 11,000 engraved andesite stones. These aren't crude cave paintings or primitive scratches. They're sophisticated engravings depicting scenes that should be impossible: humans coexisting with dinosaurs, advanced surgical procedures being performed with precision instruments, astronomical observations of impossible accuracy, and technological devices that wouldn't be invented for centuries. The craftsmanship alone is remarkable. Andesite is one of the hardest stones on Earth, requiring diamond-tipped tools to engrave effectively. Yet these stones display intricate details, fine lines, and complex imagery that would challenge modern engravers. The patina, the surface oxidation that develops over millennia, appears genuine and consistent across thousands of stones, suggesting great antiquity. But it's the content that makes these stones truly revolutionary or completely fraudulent, depending on your perspective. Detailed depictions show humans riding dinosaurs, hunting them, domesticating them. Maps display continental configurations that match paleontological reconstructions of ancient Earth. Surgical scenes show heart transplants, brain operations, and cesarean sections performed with apparent expertise. If genuine, the Ica stones suggest that advanced human civilization existed alongside dinosaurs millions of years ago, contradicting everything we know about evolutionary timelines and geological history. They imply that sophisticated medical knowledge, astronomical observation, and technological capabilities existed in prehistoric times and were somehow lost to the fossil record. The stone's critics argue they represent modern forgeries created to deceive collectors and tourists. The depictions are too accurate, too detailed, too impossibly anachronistic to be genuine prehistoric artifacts. Yet supporters point to the patina, the hardness of the stone, the consistency across thousands of pieces, and the sheer impracticality of creating such an elaborate hoax. What makes the Ica stones particularly frustrating is their complete isolation from archaeological context. They weren't discovered during systematic excavation, but appeared through local collectors and dealers, making scientific verification nearly impossible. Without controlled discovery conditions, establishing their authenticity becomes a matter of faith rather than science. The Koso artifact, spark plug from the past. Our journey through impossible objects now takes us to California's Mojave Desert, where in 1961, 3 rock collectors made a discovery that challenged not just archaeological assumptions, but the very foundations of geological dating. What appeared to be an ordinary geode revealed something that shouldn't have existed. A spark plug embedded in 500,000-year-old rock. Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell were hunting for unusual specimens when they cracked open what they thought was a typical geode. Instead of crystals, they found a metallic cylinder surrounded by what appeared to be ceramic material, with a metallic core that X-ray analysis later revealed to be similar to modern spark plugs. The implications were staggering. If the rock's age estimates were correct, this artifact predated human civilization by hundreds of thousands of years. It suggested that advanced technology existed long before humans were supposed to have evolved, challenging fundamental assumptions about both human development and technological progression. Skeptics quickly pointed out that the rock might not be as old as initially assumed. Geodes can form relatively quickly under certain conditions, and what appeared to be ancient mineralization might represent much more recent processes. The artifact's resemblance to 1920s-era spark plugs suggested a mundane explanation. Modern debris that became encrusted with mineral deposits over decades rather than millennia. Yet the Koso artifact's supporters argue that the mineralization patterns and rock formation show evidence of genuine antiquity. The ceramic-like material surrounding the metallic core displays characteristics consistent with long-term geological processes. The uniform incrustation and the integration of the artifact with the surrounding rock suggest formation over extended periods. The mystery deepened when the original artifact disappeared from public view, making independent analysis impossible. Photographs and X-rays remain, but without the physical object, conclusive determination of its age and origin becomes impossible. This has led to accusations of cover-up from some quarters and relief from others who see the artifact as an embarrassing case of wishful thinking. The crystal skulls, precision beyond time. Perhaps no archaeological mystery has captured public imagination quite like the crystal skulls. Life-sized human skulls carved from single pieces of quartz crystal with a precision that seems to defy the capabilities of any known ancient civilization. The most famous, the Mitchell-Hedges skull, was allegedly discovered in the 1920s in Belize and displays craftsmanship that modern gem cutters find difficult to replicate. The skull is anatomically perfect, carved with such precision that it was initially thought to be an actual human skull that had somehow crystallized over time. Every detail, from the eye sockets to the jawbone articulation, matches human anatomy exactly. The surface shows no tool marks, no signs of abrasion, no evidence of the grinding and polishing that would be necessary to shape quartz crystal using conventional techniques. What makes the crystal skulls particularly mysterious is the optical effects they produce. Under certain lighting conditions, they seem to glow with internal light. The eyes appear to change expression. Some viewers report experiencing visions, headaches, or altered states of consciousness when gazing into them for extended periods. These effects have led to theories about the skulls serving as technological devices rather than mere artistic creations. Modern analysis using electron microscopes has revealed that the skull's surface was polished using techniques that require understanding of crystal structure and optical properties. The polishing follows the crystal's natural planes in ways that enhance light transmission and create the mysterious optical effects. This level of sophistication suggests knowledge of crystallography and optics that wasn't supposed to exist in pre-Columbian America. However, recent investigations have cast serious doubt on the skull's authenticity. Tool mark analysis suggests the use of modern rotary equipment rather than ancient hand tools. The quartz crystal itself shows characteristics consistent with Brazilian sources rather than Mesoamerican deposits. Most damaging, several skulls show evidence of synthetic binding agents and artificial aging techniques. The crystal skull controversy highlights the complex relationship between scientific analysis and popular mythology. While physical evidence increasingly suggests modern manufacture, the skulls continue to capture imagination and inspire theories about lost technologies and ancient wisdom. They represent the power of mystery to persist even in the face of contradictory evidence. The London Hammer, tool from deep time. In 1936, Max and Emma Hahn were walking near London, Texas, when they discovered a piece of wood protruding from a rock formation. When they cracked open the limestone, they revealed something that challenged geological dating: a hammer with a wooden handle, an iron head embedded in rock supposedly 100 million years old. The hammer appears entirely ordinary, a typical 19th century tool with a wooden handle and forged iron head. But its location within Cretaceous rock formations presents an enormous chronological problem. If the geological dating is correct, this hammer predates human evolution by millions of years, suggesting either time travel, prehistoric advanced civilizations, or fundamental errors in our understanding of geological processes. Analysis of the iron head revealed unusual metallurgical properties. The iron is remarkably pure, showing none of the sulfur or phosphorus content typical of modern steel. The crystalline structure appears different from contemporary ironwork, leading some researchers to suggest advanced metallurgical techniques beyond current capabilities. Critics argue that the hammer represents a much more recent intrusion into older rock formations. Limestone can form relatively quickly under certain conditions, and modern objects can become incorporated into geological structures through various natural processes. The hammer's obviously 19th century design supports this interpretation. Yet, supporters point to the mineralization of the wooden handle, which has partially transformed into coal-like material through apparent geological processes. The integration of the artifact with the surrounding rock suggests formation over extended periods rather than recent incorporation. The London hammer exemplifies the challenges of evaluating out-of-place artifacts. Without controlled discovery conditions and independent verification, distinguishing between genuine anomalies and natural processes becomes nearly impossible. The artifact remains in private hands, limiting scientific analysis and fueling ongoing controversy. The dropper stones, discs from the sky. High in the mountains between China and Tibet, in caves that have sheltered humans for thousands of years, archaeologists in 1938 allegedly discovered hundreds of stone discs that tell an impossible story. The dropper stones, each roughly 9 inches in diameter with a hole in the center, are covered with tiny hieroglyphic-like markings that spiral from center to edge like a phonograph record. According to the story, these discs were first discovered by archaeologist Chipu Te, who found them alongside strange skeletal remains within large skulls and diminutive bodies. The caves contained no pottery, no tools, no conventional archaeological evidence, only these mysterious discs and the enigmatic remains. The markings on the discs were allegedly deciphered in the 1960s by Professor Tsum Nui, who claimed they told the story of the Dropa people, extraterrestrial visitors whose spacecraft crashed in the mountains 12,000 years ago. According to this translation, the survivors were stranded on Earth, eventually integrating with local populations, but maintaining their story through these stone records. The discs supposedly display unusual properties when subjected to scientific analysis. They allegedly contain high concentrations of cobalt and other metals that create electrical vibrations when spun. Some researchers claim the discs produce a humming sound and exhibit magnetic properties inconsistent with ordinary stone. However, the Dropa stones present serious credibility problems. No physical evidence of the discs exists in any museum or research institution. Photographs are scarce and of poor quality. The alleged discoverers and translators are difficult to verify through historical records. Most tellingly, no independent researcher has been able to examine the actual artifacts. The Dropper Stone story may represent the ultimate archaeological hoax, a tale so compelling, so perfectly crafted to appeal to modern sensibilities about ancient astronauts and lost civilizations, that it has persisted despite the complete absence of verifiable evidence. Yet the story's persistence demonstrates the powerful appeal of archaeological mysteries that suggest our past is far stranger than we imagine. CT. The Wolfseg iron, metal from the deep past. In 1885, workers in an Austrian foundry made a discovery that shouldn't have been possible. While processing coal that had been mined from depths associated with tertiary period deposits, roughly 60 million years old, they found a small iron cube with precise edges and what appeared to be intentional grooves around its circumference. The Wolfseg iron, as it became known, displayed characteristics that seemed to indicate artificial manufacture. Its edges were remarkably straight, its surfaces showed tool marks, and the grooves appeared deliberately carved rather than naturally formed. The iron composition included nickel, suggesting metallurgical knowledge and techniques. If the geological context was accurate, this small cube represented evidence of intelligent activity millions of years before complex life was supposed to exist on Earth. It challenged not just human chronology, but the entire timeline of life's development on our planet. Scientific analysis revealed that the cube's composition was consistent with meteoric iron, leading to theories that it might represent a natural meteorite fragment that coincidentally achieved cubic form through unusual crystallization processes. The grooves and surface features could result from natural weathering and chemical interactions rather than deliberate manufacture. However, supporters of the artifact's artificial origin point to the precision of its geometry and the unlikely probability of natural processes producing such regular forms. The cube's integration with surrounding coal deposits suggests it had been in place for extended periods, supporting claims of great antiquity. The Wolfsegg iron disappeared from public view in the mid-20th century, making independent analysis impossible. Like many controversial artifacts, its absence from scientific scrutiny has allowed theories about its origin to proliferate without the constraints of physical evidence. These artifacts, the historically impossible Ica stones, the technologically anachronistic Kozo artifact, the optically mysterious crystal skulls, the chronologically displaced London hammer, the extraterrestrially attributed Dropa stones, and the metallurgically puzzling Wolfsegg iron, represent challenges to orthodox thinking that extend beyond simple archaeological mystery. They suggest possibilities that make many researchers uncomfortable, that our understanding of human development might be incomplete, that technological advancement might not follow linear progression, that the past might harbour secrets we're not prepared to accept. Whether deceptions, they genuine anomalies, or elaborate forces to examine the foundations of our historical assumptions and consider whether the story we tell ourselves about human civilization might need fundamental revision. Yet these discoveries represent only a fraction of archaeology's most bewildering findings. As we continue our journey into the impossible, the mysteries only deepen, the questions multiply, and the answers become ever more elusive. The Sumerian king list, when gods ruled for millennia. But what if I told you that buried in ancient clay tablets lies a document so impossible, so utterly bewildering, that it suggests human civilization began not with primitive farmers, but with beings who ruled for tens of thousands of years? Welcome to perhaps archaeology's most mind-bending mystery. Records that claim kings lived for 43,000 years, that divine beings descended from the heavens to establish the first cities, and that human history extends far beyond anything we've dared to imagine. The Sumerian king list reads like science fiction, yet it exists as hard archaeological fact. Carved into cuneiform tablets over 4,000 years ago, this ancient document presents a chronological record of rulers that defies every assumption about early human civilization. According to these meticulously maintained records, the first kings of Sumer didn't rule for decades or even centuries. They ruled for millennia. Consider this. One king allegedly reigned for 43,200 years, another for 36,000 years. The list matter-of-factly states that kingship descended from heaven, and that these impossibly long-lived rulers governed from cities that archaeologists have confirmed actually existed. This isn't mythology or religious poetry. It's presented as historical fact, complete with names, locations, and precise chronological sequences. What makes the king list particularly unsettling is its accuracy regarding later periods. When it describes kings from more recent eras, the dates align perfectly with archaeological evidence. The scribes who compiled this document clearly understood chronological record-keeping. They weren't writing fantasy, they were recording what they believed to be actual history. The implications are staggering. If even partially accurate, the Sumerian king list suggests that human civilization extends far deeper into the past than we've ever acknowledged. It hints at a time when beings with radically different lifespans established the foundations of organized society. Most disturbing of all, it raises the possibility that everything we think we know about humanity's origins might be fundamentally wrong. The Giza power plant theory, ancient energy beyond imagination. Deep beneath the Giza plateau, recent discoveries have uncovered something that challenges the very purpose we've assigned to humanity's most famous monuments. The Great Pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was a machine, a sophisticated piece of technology designed to harness and manipulate energy on a scale that seems impossible for ancient civilizations. Engineer Christopher Dunn's revolutionary analysis revealed that the pyramid's internal structure displays characteristics of advanced engineering rather than burial architecture. the precision-cut granite chambers, the acoustic properties of the internal passages, the chemical residues found in the so-called King's Chamber. Everything points to industrial processes rather than religious ceremonies. Consider the pyramid's construction materials. The builders used specific types of stone with unique electromagnetic properties. Limestone contains high concentrations of quartz crystal, making it piezoelectric, capable of generating electrical current under pressure. The granite chambers contain high levels of quartz and feldspar, creating natural resonance chambers that could amplify acoustic and electromagnetic frequencies. The internal passages aren't designed for human movement, but for the flow of specific materials and energies. Chemical analysis has revealed traces of hydrochloric acid and zinc chloride in the upper chambers, residues consistent with electrochemical processes rather than mummification rituals. The shaft systems show evidence of continuous airflow and chemical reactions that would be necessary for sustained energy production. Most remarkably, the pyramid's location sits directly over underground water systems that could provide the hydrostatic pressure necessary to drive mechanical processes throughout the structure. The entire complex appears designed to convert seismic energy, groundwater pressure, and electromagnetic radiation into usable power through methods we're only beginning to understand. If this analysis is correct, the Great Pyramid represents technology so advanced that we've spent centuries misinterpreting its purpose. It suggests that ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge of energy manipulation, chemical processes, and engineering principles that we assume are modern innovations. The pyramid wasn't a monument to death, but a testament to life. A power plant capable of generating energy through processes that remain mysterious even today. The Nazca lines, messages written in stone, high in the Peruvian desert, scratched into the earth with impossible precision, lie the Nazca lines, geoglyphs so massive they can only be properly viewed from the air. Created by a civilization that supposedly never developed flight, these lines form perfect geometric shapes and detailed animal figures across hundreds of square miles of desert terrain. The technical challenges alone seem insurmountable. Creating straight lines that extend for miles across varied terrain requires surveying capabilities that shouldn't have existed 1,500 years ago. The animal figures, a spider, a monkey, a hummingbird, are drawn with anatomical accuracy that suggests intimate knowledge of species not native to the desert region where they were created. But it's the line's mathematical precision that truly baffles researchers. Some extend for over 30 miles in perfectly straight lines, deviating by less than a few feet across their entire length. Creating such accuracy without aerial perspective would require advanced surveying techniques and mathematical knowledge that challenges our understanding of pre-Columbian capabilities. The purpose remains equally mysterious. These aren't cave paintings or decorative art. They're massive undertakings that required coordinated effort from entire communities over extended periods. The lines show no evidence of foot traffic, suggesting they weren't walked but viewed from above. Yet the Nazca people supposedly never developed flight technology. Recent analysis using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar has revealed that the lines extend far beyond what's visible on the surface. Underground, the geometric patterns continue in 3 dimensions, creating a complex network of shapes and forms that suggest purposes we can't even imagine. Some researchers propose the lines functioned as a massive astronomical calendar, with different patterns marking celestial events and seasonal changes. Others suggest more exotic possibilities. The precision and scale of the lines seem designed for observation from great heights. If the Nazca people couldn't fly, who were these messages intended for? The line's preservation in one of Earth's driest climates seems almost intentionally designed to last for millennia, as if their creators expected them to be discovered by more advanced civilizations. The Abydos hieroglyphs, ancient aviation technology. In the Temple of Seti IV at Abydos, Egypt, carved into stone over 3,000 years ago, are hieroglyphs that appear to depict modern aircraft with impossible accuracy. These aren't vague symbols open to interpretation. They show detailed representations of helicopters, submarines, and aircraft that match modern designs with startling precision. The carvings appear among conventional hieroglyphs in a context that suggests they were intended as legitimate historical records rather than artistic fantasy. They're positioned alongside inscriptions describing military campaigns and religious ceremonies, indicating they held the same documentary significance as other historical elements of the temple decoration. Mainstream archaeology explains these images as palimpsests, carved over inscriptions where later modifications created accidental resemblances to modern machinery. Yet this explanation fails to account for the remarkable detail and accuracy of the supposed coincidental forms. The helicopter shows rotor configurations, the submarine displays hull shapes, and the aircraft depictions include details that precisely match modern aerodynamic designs. What makes these hieroglyphs particularly intriguing is their location within a temple dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian god associated with resurrection and eternal life. Ancient Egyptian religious texts describe Osiris traveling through the sky in celestial boats and divine vehicles. Could these carvings represent actual technological devices rather than mythological symbols? The implications extend beyond simple misidentification. If ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge of aircraft design, it suggests technological capabilities that would revolutionize our understanding of human development. The precision of the depictions implies direct observation rather than imaginative speculation, raising uncomfortable questions about what ancient civilizations might have achieved. The Dendera light. Ancient electrical technology. Within the temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, relief carvings depict what appear to be large electrical bulbs complete with filaments, power sources, and supporting structures. These aren't crude symbolic representations, but detailed technical diagrams that modern electrical engineers recognize as sophisticated lighting systems. The carvings show elongated bulb-shaped objects connected to braided cables, leading to what appears to be a power source. Inside the bulbs, serpentine forms extend the length of the devices in configurations that precisely match the filament arrangements in modern electrical lighting. The entire system is supported by pillars that resemble electrical insulators, suggesting knowledge of electrical properties and safety requirements. Accompanying hieroglyphic texts describe these devices in terms that translate as divine light and illumination of the sacred spaces. Yet the technical details suggest something far more sophisticated than oil lamps or torches. The power source appears to be a rectangular box connected to the lighting system through multiple cables, resembling modern electrical distribution systems. Archaeological analysis of the temple's interior spaces reveals an absence of soot or smoke residue that would be inevitable with conventional ancient lighting methods. The chambers show no evidence of torch use or oil lamp burning, yet intricate decorative work throughout the temple required sustained, bright illumination to complete. The only explanation that accounts for both the clean walls and the detailed artwork is some form of smokeless lighting technology. Chemical analysis of temple stones has revealed traces of electrical activity, microscopic changes in mineral composition consistent with long-term exposure to electrical fields. These signatures suggest the operation of actual electrical systems rather than symbolic representations of divine illumination. If the Dendera carvings represent functional technology, they indicate that ancient Egyptians possessed not only electrical knowledge, but the engineering capability to design and construct sophisticated lighting systems. The implications challenge fundamental assumptions about technological development and suggest that electrical principles might have been understood and applied thousands of years before their supposed discovery. The stone spheres of Bosnia, precision on an impossible scale. Hidden in the forests of Bosnia and Herzegovina lie stone spheres that dwarf even the famous Costa Rican examples in both size and precision. These massive orbs, some measuring over 10 feet in diameter and weighing 30 tons, display geometric perfection that seems impossible for any ancient civilization to achieve. Discovery of the Bosnian spheres began in the 1930s, but systematic study only commenced in recent decades as researchers recognized their extraordinary characteristics. Unlike natural rock formations, these spheres show mathematical precision in their geometry, surface smoothness that requires advanced polishing techniques, and compositional uniformity suggesting controlled manufacturing processes. The largest sphere, discovered near Zavidovici, measures nearly 12 feet in diameter and weighs an estimated 30 tons. Its surface deviation from perfect spherical geometry measures less than 5 millimeters, a precision that modern machinery would struggle to achieve when working with such massive objects. The sphere's composition consists of extremely hard sandstone that would require diamond-tipped tools to shape effectively. What makes the Bosnian spheres particularly mysterious is their apparent antiquity combined with their impossible precision. Geological analysis suggests they were created over 1,500 years ago, yet they display manufacturing accuracy that exceeds modern capabilities for objects of similar size and hardness. The technical challenges of achieving such precision without advanced machinery seem insurmountable. The sphere's distribution across the landscape follows no apparent pattern related to natural geological processes. They appear to have been deliberately positioned, yet their weight would make transportation across the mountainous terrain incredibly difficult, even with modern equipment. How ancient peoples moved these massive objects remains completely unexplained. Recent analysis using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that some spheres contain internal structures, hollow chambers, or embedded objects that suggest they serve purposes beyond mere artistic creation. The internal complexity implies sophisticated understanding of three-dimensional geometry and hollow casting techniques that challenge our assumptions about ancient manufacturing capabilities. The Yonaguni Monument, underwater architecture. Off the coast of Japan, 25 meters beneath the Pacific Ocean, lies a structure so geometrically precise and architecturally sophisticated that it challenges everything we believe about prehistoric civilizations. The Yonaguni Monument appears to be a massive stepped pyramid complex, complete with terraces, ramps, and carved symbols that suggest advanced construction techniques. Discovered in 1987 by dive tour operator Kihachiro Arataki, the monument measures approximately 165 feet long, 65 feet wide, and 85 feet high. Its surfaces show clear evidence of tool marks, right angles, and geometric precision that natural erosion cannot explain. The structure includes what appear to be roads, staircases, and ceremonial platforms arranged in complex architectural relationships. The monument's age remains hotly debated. If formed naturally, it represents an extraordinary geological coincidence. If artificially constructed, it predates known advanced civilizations in the region by thousands of years. The structure's submersion suggests it was built when sea levels were significantly lower, placing its construction at least 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. Geological analysis reveals that the monument consists of very fine sandstone and mudstone that would be difficult to carve using primitive tools. Yet the surfaces show clear evidence of artificial modification, straight edges, sharp corners, and geometric patterns that natural processes cannot produce. Tool marks visible on various surfaces indicate systematic quarrying and shaping activities. The monument includes features that appear designed for human use: staircases with uniform step heights, platforms at comfortable viewing levels, and passages that facilitate movement through the structure. These elements suggest architectural planning and construction techniques that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric Japan. Marine archaeologists have identified additional structures in the surrounding area, suggesting the Yonaguni Monument might be part of a larger complex of underwater ruins. If confirmed, this would indicate an advanced civilization capable of massive construction projects existing thousands of years before the earliest known advanced cultures in the region. The aluminum wedge of Aiud, metal from another time. In 1974, Romanian workers excavating along the Mureș River made a discovery that defied explanation. Buried alongside mastodon bones in geological strata dating back 20,000 years, they found a wedge-shaped piece of aluminum alloy that shouldn't have been possible to produce until the 19th century. The aluminum wedge of Aiud weighs approximately 5 pounds and shows evidence of machining and artificial manufacture. Its composition includes aluminum alloyed with copper in proportions that require sophisticated metallurgical knowledge and controlled smelting processes. The surface displays tool marks and wear patterns consistent with use as a mechanical component. Aluminum doesn't occur naturally in metallic form and requires complex extraction processes from bauxite ore using electrical smelting techniques. The metal wasn't successfully isolated until 1825 and didn't become commercially available until the 1880s. Finding aluminum artifacts in 20,000-year-old geological deposits presents an enormous chronological impossibility. Analysis of the wedge's corrosion patterns suggests genuine antiquity rather than recent manufacture. The oxidation layers and mineral deposits match what would be expected from objects buried for millennia in the specific soil conditions where it was discovered. Attempts to dismiss the artifact as modern contamination fail to explain how aluminum could achieve such corrosion characteristics in a short time period. The wedge's shape and wear patterns suggest it functioned as part of a larger mechanical device. One end shows evidence of attachment to other components, while the surface displays scratches and indentations consistent with operational use. The artifact decorative object. If genuine, the aluminum wedge appears to have been part of sophisticated machinery, rather than a simple tool or Aiud represents evidence of technological capabilities that predate known human civilization by thousands of years. It suggests either advanced prehistoric societies with metallurgical knowledge beyond current historical understanding, or contamination of archaeological sites by artifacts from unknown sources. The Klerksdorp spheres. Precision from the Precambrian. Deep in South African mines, embedded in pyrophyllite rock formations dated to 2.8 billion years old, miners have discovered hundreds of small metallic spheres that display characteristics suggesting artificial manufacture. These Klerksdorp spheres, as they've become known, present one of archaeology's most chronologically impossible mysteries. The spheres measure between 1 and 4 inches in diameter and show remarkably uniform construction. Many display 3 parallel grooves around their circumference that appear deliberately carved rather than naturally formed. The sphere's metallic composition includes iron, nickel, and other elements in proportions that suggest controlled alloying processes. What makes the Klerksdorp spheres truly extraordinary is their geological context. The rock formations containing them date to the Precambrian era, long before complex life was supposed to exist on Earth. If the spheres are artificial, they represent technology predating the evolution of multicellular organisms by billions of years. The spheres display perfect balance when spun, suggesting manufacturing precision that would be difficult to achieve even with modern techniques. Their uniform size and consistent groove patterns indicate systematic production rather than random natural formation. Some spheres show evidence of internal structure when X-rayed, revealing hollow chambers or embedded components. Scientific analysis has failed to identify natural processes that could produce such uniform, geometrically precise objects. The sphere's metallic composition and internal structure don't match known geological formations or natural concretion processes. Their characteristics suggest manufacturing techniques that require intelligence and technological capability. Mainstream geology explains the spheres as concretions, mineral deposits that formed naturally through chemical processes in the ancient rock. Yet this explanation struggles to account for the geometric precision, uniform size distribution, and consistent groove patterns observed across hundreds of specimens. The Klerksdorp spheres force us to confront possibilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about Earth's history and the development of life. If artificial, they suggest intelligence existing on Earth billions of years before complex life was supposed to evolve. If natural, they represent geological processes we don't understand operating with impossible precision across vast time scales. These artifacts we've explored, the chronologically impossible Sumerian records, the technologically sophisticated Giza power systems, the aerially designed Nazca lines, the aviation hieroglyphs at Abydos, the electrical devices at Dendera, the geometrically perfect Bosnian spheres, the underwater architecture at Yonaguni, the metallurgically impossible aluminum wedge, and the temporally displaced Klerksdorp spheres represent challenges to orthodox thinking that extend far beyond simple archaeological curiosity. They suggest that the story we tell ourselves about human development, technological progress, and the timeline of intelligence on Earth might be fundamentally incomplete. Whether genuine anomalies or elaborate deceptions, they force us to examine the foundations of our historical assumptions and consider whether the past might harbor secrets that would revolutionize our understanding of reality itself. But even these mind-bending discoveries pale in comparison to what we'll explore next. Artifacts so impossible, so utterly beyond explanation, that they exist at the very edges of what science is willing to acknowledge. The Codex Gigas. When monks made deals with darkness. Picture this. A medieval monk condemned to death for breaking his sacred vows makes an impossible promise. In a single night, he'll create the most magnificent book ever written, or die at dawn. As midnight approaches and his task proves hopeless, he does something unthinkable. He calls upon the devil himself for help. What emerged from that desperate bargain still exists today, sitting in a Swedish library like a monument to forbidden knowledge. The Codex Gigas, the Devil's Bible, stands as the largest medieval manuscript ever created, weighing 165 pounds and requiring 2 people just to lift it. But it's not the book's massive size that chills scholars to the bone. It's what's painted inside. Among pages of biblical text and medieval wisdom, there's a full-page portrait of Satan himself. A grotesque, crouching figure with claws, horns, and a serpentine tongue, staring out with eyes that seem to follow viewers across the room. No other medieval religious manuscript contains anything like it. The image is so vivid, so terrifyingly detailed, that visitors often refuse to look directly at it. Here's what makes this legend even more unsettling. Modern handwriting analysis confirms the entire 620-page manuscript was indeed written by a single scribe. The consistency is perfect. No variations in style, no signs of fatigue or aging that would occur over the years such a project should have taken. It's as if the entire book was completed in one impossible burst of superhuman effort. The monk's identity remains unknown. The techniques used to create such uniform script across hundreds of pages remain unexplained. And the presence of that demonic portrait in what should have been a sacred Christian text continues to disturb scholars, nearly 8 centuries after its creation. The Koso artifact, technology buried in time. But medieval mysteries pale in comparison to what 3 rock collectors discovered in California's Mojave Desert in 1961. Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell were hunting for mineral specimens when they cracked open what appeared to be an ordinary geode. Instead of crystals, they found something that shattered their understanding of geological time itself. Embedded in rock that preliminary analysis dated to 500,000 years old was a metallic cylinder surrounded by ceramic-like material, with a central core that X-ray examination revealed to be identical in structure to a 1920s-era spark plug. The implications were staggering. Either their rock dating was catastrophically wrong, or advanced technology existed 500,000 years before humans were supposed to have evolved. The ceramic casing showed mineral deposits and crystalline formations consistent with extreme age. The metallic components displayed corrosion patterns that suggested centuries or millennia of chemical interaction with surrounding materials. Yet the object's design and construction perfectly matched early 20th century automotive technology. Initial geological surveys of the discovery site indicated rock formations from the Pleistocene era, when early human ancestors were just beginning to use simple stone tools. The presence of sophisticated manufactured technology in such ancient geological context challenged not just human chronology, but the entire timeline of technological development on Earth. What makes the Koso artifact particularly maddening is its subsequent disappearance from scientific scrutiny. After initial analysis and documentation, the object vanished into private collections, making independent verification impossible. Photographs and X-rays remain, but without the physical artifact, conclusive determination of its age and origin became impossible. Skeptics argue the rock formation was much younger than initially estimated, suggesting rapid mineralization around a modern object. Yet supporters point to the uniform encrustation, the integration with surrounding geological structures, and the mineral composition of the ceramic casing as evidence of genuine antiquity that can't be easily dismissed. The dropper stones, messages from the stars. High in the mountains between China and Tibet, in caves that have sheltered humans for millennia, lies perhaps the most controversial archaeological discovery ever claimed. In 1938, archaeologist Chipu Te allegedly uncovered hundreds of stone discs that tell a story so impossible, so utterly beyond conventional history, that most scholars refuse to acknowledge their existence. The dropper stones, each roughly 9 inches in diameter with central holes like ancient phonograph records, are covered with microscopic hieroglyphic markings that spiral from center to edge in continuous patterns. But it's not their appearance that makes them extraordinary. It's what they supposedly say. According to translations performed in the 1960s by Professor Tsum Nui, the discs tell the story of the Draper people, extraterrestrial visitors whose spacecraft crashed in the remote mountains 12,000 years ago. The survivors, stranded on a hostile world, eventually integrated with local human populations while maintaining their history through these stone records. The alleged translation describes beings who came from the clouds in gliding vehicles that were damaged beyond repair. It speaks of initial hostility from local tribes who feared the strange newcomers, followed by eventual acceptance and interbreeding. Most remarkably, it suggests that some dropper descendants still lived in the region when the discs were supposedly discovered. Scientific analysis of the stones reportedly revealed unusual properties. High concentrations of cobalt and other rare metals that create electromagnetic effects when the discs are spun. Some researchers claimed the stones produce audible humming sounds and exhibit magnetic characteristics inconsistent with ordinary rock formations. Yet the Draper stones present serious credibility problems. No major museum or research institution possesses any of the alleged artifacts. Photographs are scarce and of questionable authenticity. The supposed discoverers and translators are difficult to verify through historical records. Most tellingly, no independent researcher has been able to examine actual specimens. The Draper story might represent the ultimate archaeological hoax, a tale so perfectly crafted to appeal to modern fascination with ancient astronauts that it has persisted despite complete absence of physical evidence. Yet its persistence demonstrates the powerful appeal of mysteries that suggest our past harbors secrets beyond conventional understanding. The iron pillar of Delhi, metal that refuses to rust. Standing in a courtyard in Delhi, India, rises a monument to metallurgical mastery that continues to baffle material scientists 16 centuries after its creation. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, forged around 400 CE, stands 23 feet tall and weighs over 6 tons. What makes it extraordinary isn't its size or age, it's the fact that it shows virtually no signs of corrosion despite being exposed to monsoon rains and desert heat for over 1,600 years. Modern iron structures begin rusting within years of exposure to similar conditions. Yet this ancient pillar maintains a lustrous, dark finish that looks almost new. The iron's purity levels exceed anything achieved by medieval metallurgists anywhere else in the world. Chemical analysis reveals a composition so refined that modern steel manufacturers struggle to replicate it. The pillar contains less than 1% of impurities like sulfur and phosphorus that typically cause iron to corrode. Instead, it includes trace amounts of phosphorus distributed so evenly throughout the metal that they create a protective coating, preventing oxidation. This level of metallurgical control requires understanding of chemical processes that weren't supposed to exist in ancient India. The forging techniques needed to create such a massive, uniform piece of metal remain mysterious. Medieval Indian smiths would have needed furnaces capable of maintaining extremely high temperatures for extended periods, along with mechanical systems for handling and shaping 6 tons of molten metal. No evidence of such advanced metallurgical facilities has been found at archaeological sites from the period. Most puzzling is the pillar's phosphorus content, which forms a protective coating exactly where needed to prevent rust. This suggests either extraordinary metallurgical knowledge or accidental achievement of chemical processes that modern science has only recently understood. The precision required to achieve such uniform phosphorus distribution throughout such a massive iron casting seems impossible for ancient technology. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient Greece's impossible computer. But perhaps no discovery challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities more completely than a corroded bronze mechanism pulled from Mediterranean waters over a century ago. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a Roman-era shipwreck, initially appeared to be just another piece of ancient metalwork. Only after decades of careful analysis did researchers realize they were examining the world's first analog computer, created 2,000 years before such technology was supposed to exist. X-ray imaging revealed an intricate network of over 30 bronze gears, arranged in complex configurations that modern engineers recognize as remarkably sophisticated. The mechanism could predict the positions of the sun, moon, and known planets, track lunar phases, calculate eclipses, and even account for the irregular orbit of the moon, all through pure mechanical computation. The device's dials were inscribed with detailed Greek instructions, confirming it wasn't just a decorative object, but a practical tool for astronomical calculation. Users could input any date and receive precise celestial information, making it essentially a Bronze Age computer for navigation and calendar keeping. The implications are staggering. The Antikythera mechanism demonstrates technological sophistication that historians believed didn't exist until medieval clockmaking. It suggests an entire tradition of mechanical engineering in ancient Greece that has been almost completely lost to history. Were there workshops throughout the ancient world producing similar devices? Were there instruction manuals, training programs, entire industries we know nothing about? The mechanism's existence forces us to reconsider every assumption about ancient technological capabilities and wonder what other achievements might have vanished without trace. The Baghdad battery, electricity in ancient times. Just when we think ancient mysteries can't become more bewildering, we encounter evidence of electrical technology dating back over 2,000 years. In 1936, archaeologists working near Baghdad discovered peculiar clay jars that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about ancient science and technology. The artifacts appeared unremarkable at first, simple storage vessels from the Parthian period around 250 BCE. But inside these humble clay pots lay something extraordinary. Copper cylinders containing iron rods, all sealed together with asphalt. The configuration was unmistakable to anyone familiar with basic electrical principles. When modern researchers constructed replicas using identical materials and methods, they successfully produced measurable electrical voltage. Fill the jar with acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, and you have all the components necessary for a galvanic cell, essentially an ancient battery capable of generating electrical current. The implications are revolutionary. If ancient peoples could generate electricity, what were they using it for? The most commonly proposed theory suggests electroplating, using electrical current to coat objects with thin layers of precious metals. This would explain how some ancient artifacts display impossibly even distributions of gold or silver that seem achievable only through electrical processes. Several similar devices have been discovered throughout the ancient Middle East, suggesting this wasn't isolated experimentation, but possibly part of a broader technological tradition. Were there ancient electrical workshops? Did metallurgists 2,000 years ago routinely use processes we consider modern innovations? The Baghdad battery opens disturbing possibilities about the true extent of ancient scientific knowledge. It suggests that technologies we consider thoroughly modern might have much older, more mysterious origins than we've ever imagined. The crystal skulls, optical precision beyond time. Perhaps no archaeological controversy has captured public imagination quite like the crystal skulls. Life-sized human skulls carved from single pieces of quartz crystal with precision that seems to transcend the capabilities of any known ancient civilization. The most famous, discovered, allegedly in Belize during the 1920s, displays craftsmanship that modern gem cutters find nearly impossible to replicate. The skull is anatomically perfect, carved with such accuracy that it was initially mistaken for an actual human skull that had somehow crystallized over time. Every detail matches human anatomy exactly, from eye socket depth to jawbone articulation. The surface shows no tool marks, no signs of the grinding and polishing that would be necessary to shape quartz crystal using conventional techniques. What makes these skulls truly mysterious are the optical effects they produce. Under certain lighting conditions, they seem to glow with internal illumination. The eyes appear to shift and change expression. Some viewers report experiencing visions, altered consciousness, or physical sensations when gazing into them for extended periods. Modern electron microscope analysis reveals that the skull's surface was polished using techniques that require understanding of crystal structure and optical properties. The polishing follows the crystal's natural planes in ways that enhance light transmission and create the supernatural optical effects. This level of sophistication suggests knowledge of crystallography and optics that wasn't supposed to exist in pre-Columbian America. However, recent investigations using advanced analytical techniques have cast serious doubt on the skull's authenticity. Tool mark analysis suggests the use of modern rotary equipment rather than ancient hand methods. The quartz crystal itself shows characteristics consistent with Brazilian sources rather than Mesoamerican deposits. Yet, the crystal skull controversy highlights the complex relationship between scientific analysis and enduring mystery. Even as physical evidence increasingly suggests modern manufacture, the skulls continue to inspire theories about lost technologies and ancient wisdom, demonstrating the power of archaeological enigmas to persist beyond contradictory evidence. The London Hammer, tool from impossible times. In 1936, Max and Emma Hahn were walking near London, Texas, when they discovered a piece of wood protruding from limestone rock. When they cracked open the formation, they revealed something that challenged fundamental assumptions about geological time. A hammer with wooden handle and iron head embedded in rock supposedly 100 million years old. The hammer appears entirely ordinary, a typical 19th century tool with wooden handle and forged iron head. But its location within Cretaceous limestone presents an enormous chronological problem. If geological dating is accurate, this hammer predates human evolution by millions of years, suggesting either prehistoric advanced civilizations or fundamental errors in our understanding of geological processes. Analysis of the iron head revealed unusual metallurgical properties. The metal is remarkably pure, showing none of the sulfur or phosphorus content typical of modern steel. The crystalline structure appears different from contemporary ironwork, leading some researchers to suggest advanced techniques beyond current capabilities. The wooden handle shows signs of partial mineralization, transforming into coal-like material through apparent geological processes. The integration of the artifact with surrounding rock suggests formation over extended periods, rather than recent incorporation into older formations. Critics argue the hammer represents recent intrusion into limestone through natural processes that can occur relatively quickly under certain conditions. The obviously 19th century design supports this mundane explanation over exotic alternatives involving time travel or prehistoric technology. Yet supporters point to the mineral deposits, the integration patterns, and the handle's transformation as evidence of genuine antiquity that can't be easily dismissed. The artifact remains in private hands, limiting scientific analysis and ensuring the controversy continues. The Ica stones. Impossible history carved in stone. Hidden in a small museum in Peru lie thousands of carved stones that, if authentic, would obliterate everything we believe about human history. The Ica stones depict scenes that should be impossible. Humans coexisting with dinosaurs, advanced surgical procedures, astronomical observations of impossible accuracy, and technological devices that wouldn't be invented for centuries. Dr. Javier Cabrera assembled over 11,000 engraved andesite stones, showing sophisticated imagery that challenges every assumption about prehistoric capabilities. The craftsmanship is remarkable. Andesite is one of Earth's hardest stones, requiring diamond-tipped tools to engrave effectively. Yet these stones display intricate details and complex imagery that would challenge modern engravers. The patina, surface oxidation that develops over millennia, appears genuine across thousands of specimens. The consistency and age indicators suggest antiquity that predates known advanced civilizations by enormous margins. But it's the content that makes these stones truly revolutionary or completely fraudulent. Detailed depictions show humans riding dinosaurs, performing heart transplants, observing stars through telescopes, and using technological devices that seem centuries ahead of their supposed time. If genuine, the Ica stones suggest advanced human civilization existed alongside dinosaurs millions of years ago, contradicting everything we know about evolutionary timelines. They imply sophisticated medical knowledge, astronomical observation, and technological capabilities in prehistoric times that were somehow lost to history. Critics argue the stones represent elaborate modern forgeries created to deceive collectors. The depictions are too accurate, too anachronistic, too impossibly advanced to be genuine prehistoric artifacts. Yet supporters point to the patina, the stone's hardness, the sheer scale of creating such an extensive hoax. The stone's complete isolation from archaeological context makes scientific verification nearly impossible. Without controlled discovery conditions, determining their authenticity becomes a matter of belief rather than evidence. The wolf's egg iron, metal from deep time. In 1885, workers in an Austrian foundry made a discovery that shouldn't have been possible. While processing coal mined from tertiary period deposits, roughly 60 million years old, they found a small iron cube with precise edges and deliberate grooves around its circumference. The wolf's egg iron displayed characteristics suggesting artificial manufacture rather than natural formation. Its edges were remarkably straight, surfaces showed tool marks, and grooves appeared deliberately carved. The iron composition included nickel, indicating metallurgical knowledge and controlled alloying processes. If the geological context was accurate, This cube represented evidence of intelligent activity millions of years before complex life was supposed to exist on Earth. It challenged not just human chronology, but the entire timeline of life's development on our planet. Scientific analysis suggested the cube might be meteoric iron that achieved cubic form through unusual crystallization processes. The grooves and surface features could result from natural weathering rather than deliberate manufacture. However, supporters pointed to the geometric precision and the unlikely probability of natural processes producing such regular forms. The cube's integration with surrounding coal deposits suggested extended placement supporting claims of genuine antiquity. The Wolfsegg iron disappeared from public view in the mid-20th century, making independent analysis impossible. Like many controversial artifacts, its absence from scientific scrutiny has allowed theories to proliferate without physical evidence constraints. These impossible artifacts force us to confront uncomfortable possibilities about the nature of human development, technological progress, and the reliability of our historical assumptions. Whether genuine anomalies or elaborate deceptions, they challenge the very foundations of how we understand our past and suggest that the story we tell ourselves about human civilization might require fundamental revision. The mysteries only deepen as we continue exploring discoveries that exist at the very edges of what science is willing to acknowledge, where the impossible becomes indistinguishable from the merely improbable, and where every answer raises questions that challenge our most basic beliefs about reality itself. The Sumerian tablets, when heaven touched earth. But what if everything we think we know about human origins is nothing more than a carefully constructed lie? What if buried beneath the sands of Iraq lie clay tablets that record events so impossible, so utterly world-shattering, that they could destroy the very foundation of modern civilization? Deep in the ancient ruins of Mesopotamia, archaeologists have uncovered something that makes every previous mystery pale in comparison. Cuneiform tablets, thousands of years old, that don't just challenge our understanding of history, they obliterate it completely. These aren't myths or legends or religious poetry. They're presented as factual records, complete with names, dates, and precise chronological sequences that align perfectly with archaeological evidence. The tablets speak of beings who descended from the sky to establish the first cities of humanity. They describe kings who ruled not for decades or centuries, but for tens of thousands of years. One monarch allegedly reigned for 43,200 years. Another governed for 36,000 years. These aren't symbolic numbers or metaphorical ages. They're recorded as literal historical fact by scribes who clearly understood chronological record-keeping. What makes these records truly terrifying is their accuracy regarding later periods. When the tablets describe more recent rulers, every date aligns perfectly with confirmed archaeological evidence. The same scribes who recorded impossible lifespans also documented events we can verify through independent sources. They weren't writing fantasy. They were maintaining historical records they believed to be absolutely true. The implications shatter everything we think we know about human development. If even partially accurate, these tablets suggest that beings with radically different lifespans established the foundations of civilization. They hint at a time when Earth was ruled by entities so long-lived that human generations passed like seasons in their extended existence. Most disturbing of all, the tablets describe these beings as teachers who gave humanity the gifts of agriculture, writing, mathematics, and metallurgy, the very foundations of civilization itself. They weren't gods in the mythological sense. They were physical entities who walked among humans, ruled cities, and left detailed records of their activities. The Göbekli Tepe revelation, architecture before agriculture. Just when we thought ancient mysteries couldn't become more mind-bending, archaeologists in Turkey uncovered something that rewrites the entire story of human development. Hidden beneath a hilltop that locals had avoided for generations lies Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex so impossibly old, so architecturally sophisticated, that it shouldn't exist according to everything we know about prehistoric humanity. The site consists of massive stone circles, featuring carved pillars that weigh up to 20 tons each. These aren't crude arrangements of rough-hewn rocks. They're precisely engineered monuments decorated with intricate reliefs, showing animals, symbols, and geometric patterns executed with artistic mastery that rivals anything produced by supposedly more advanced civilizations. Here's what makes Göbekli Tepe absolutely revolutionary. It was built 11,600 years ago by hunter-gatherer societies who supposedly possessed no written language, no metallurgy, no domesticated animals, and no permanent settlements. According to Orthodox archaeology, these were primitive nomadic tribes who lived in small groups and survived through hunting and gathering. Yet somehow, these primitive peoples quarried, carved, transported, and erected stone monuments that required sophisticated engineering knowledge, complex organizational systems, and coordinated labor involving hundreds of workers over extended periods. The logistics alone would challenge modern construction teams equipped with heavy machinery and advanced planning systems. The carved reliefs display artistic sophistication that seems impossible for Stone Age peoples. Detailed animal figures show anatomical accuracy and artistic vision that suggests trained craftsmen working within established artistic traditions. The symbolic imagery appears systematic and purposeful, hinting at complex belief systems and possibly even early forms of written communication. But here's the most shocking revelation. Radiocarbon dating confirms that Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture by over 1,000 years. These monuments were built before humans supposedly learned to grow crops, domesticate animals, or live in permanent settlements. The site challenges the fundamental assumption that agriculture was the driving force behind civilization's development. Instead, Göbekli Tepe suggests that organized religion and monumental architecture came first, possibly driving the development of agriculture and settled communities rather than resulting from them. The implications turn the standard narrative of human development completely upside down. The Bosnian pyramids, hidden mountains of mystery. In the hills of Bosnia, beneath what locals always assumed were natural mountains, ground-penetrating radar and archaeological excavation have revealed something that could rewrite European prehistory. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, as it's now known, appears to be a man-made structure larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, constructed using techniques and materials that seem impossible for the region's supposed technological capabilities. The pyramid measures over 720 feet in height and shows clear geometric properties, consistent with intentional construction rather than natural formation. Its sides align with cardinal directions with mathematical precision, and its angle relationships match ratios found in other pyramid complexes worldwide. Core samples reveal that the structure contains concrete blocks of extraordinary quality, stronger and more durable than modern concrete formulations. Chemical analysis shows aggregate materials that don't occur naturally in the region, suggesting transportation networks and resource management capabilities that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric Europe. Underground tunnel systems connected to the pyramid extend for miles beneath the surrounding landscape. These passages show evidence of artificial construction with smooth walls, consistent dimensions, and junction points that suggest systematic planning and engineering. The tunnels contain airflow systems that maintain consistent temperature and humidity levels throughout the network. What makes the Bosnian discoveries particularly unsettling is their apparent age. Preliminary dating suggests construction began over 25,000 years ago during the last ice age, when Europe was supposedly populated only by small bands of hunter-gatherers struggling to survive in glacial conditions. Yet the pyramid complex implies a sophisticated civilization capable of massive construction projects, advanced materials science, and long-term architectural planning. The organizational requirements alone would demand social structures far more complex than anything attributed to Ice Age Europeans. The underwater ruins of Yonaguni, sunken cities of the Pacific. 25 meters beneath the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Japan lies a discovery that challenges everything we believe about prehistoric civilizations in the Pacific region. The Yonaguni monument appears to be a massive stepped pyramid complex, complete with terraces, ramps, and carved symbols that suggest advanced construction techniques predating known Japanese civilizations by thousands of years. The structure measures approximately 500 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 90 feet high. Its surfaces show clear evidence of tool marks, right angles, and geometric precision that natural erosion processes cannot explain. The monument includes what appear to be roads, staircases, and ceremonial platforms arranged in complex architectural relationships that suggest careful planning and sophisticated engineering knowledge. Marine geologists have confirmed that the monument was submerged when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age, placing its construction at least 10,000 years ago when the area was dry land. This dating places the structure's creation thousands of years before advanced civilizations were supposed to exist in the Pacific region. The monument's construction required quarrying and moving massive stone blocks in underwater conditions that would challenge modern engineering. The precision of the cuts and the integration of the structure with natural rock formations suggest builders who possessed both advanced stoneworking techniques and detailed understanding of structural engineering principles. Additional underwater structures have been identified in the surrounding area, suggesting the Yonaguni monument might be part of a larger complex of submerged ruins. If confirmed, this would indicate an advanced civilization capable of monumental architecture existing in prehistoric Japan thousands of years before known historical records begin. The Dendera light bulbs, ancient electrical engineering. Inside the temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, carved into stone walls over 2,000 years ago, are relief sculptures that appear to show large electrical devices complete with power sources, cables, and supporting structures. These aren't vague symbolic representations, but detailed technical diagrams that modern electrical engineers recognize as sophisticated lighting systems. The carvings depict elongated objects resembling modern light bulbs, connected to braided cables leading to what appears to be a power distribution system. Inside the bulb-shaped devices, serpentine forms extend along their length in configurations that precisely match filament arrangements in electrical lighting technology. The entire system is supported by pillars that resemble electrical insulators, suggesting knowledge of electrical properties and safety requirements. Accompanying hieroglyphic texts describe these devices using terminology that translates to concepts like divine illumination and light of the sacred spaces. Archaeological analysis of the temple's interior spaces reveals something extraordinary. There's no evidence of soot, smoke residue, or carbon deposits that would be inevitable with conventional ancient lighting methods. The chambers show no traces of torch use or oil lamp burning, yet the intricate decorative artwork throughout the temple required sustained bright illumination to complete. The only explanation that accounts for both the clean walls and the detailed artwork is some form of smokeless lighting technology. Chemical analysis of the temple stones has revealed microscopic traces of electrical activity, mineral changes consistent with long-term exposure to electrical fields that suggest the operation of actual electrical systems rather than symbolic representations. The aluminum wedge of Ayud, metal that shouldn't exist. In 1974, Romanian workers excavating along the Mureș River made a discovery that defied every assumption about metallurgical history. Buried alongside mastodon bones in geological deposits dating back 20,000 years, they found a wedge-shaped piece of aluminum alloy that shouldn't have been possible to produce until the 19th century. The wedge weighs approximately 5 pounds and shows clear evidence of machining and artificial manufacture. Its composition includes aluminum alloyed with copper in proportions that require sophisticated metallurgical knowledge and controlled smelting processes that weren't developed until the modern industrial age. Aluminum doesn't occur naturally in metallic form and requires complex extraction processes from bauxite ore using electrical smelting techniques. The metal wasn't successfully isolated until 1825 and didn't become commercially available until the 1880s. Discovering aluminum artifacts in 20,000-year-old geological deposits presents a chronological impossibility that challenges the entire timeline of technological development. Analysis of the wedge's corrosion patterns suggests genuine antiquity rather than recent manufacture. The oxidation layers and mineral deposits match what would be expected from objects buried for millennia in the specific soil conditions where it was discovered. The artifact's integration with surrounding geological materials indicates it was in place when the deposits formed. The wedge's shape and wear patterns suggest it functioned as part of a larger mechanical device. One end shows evidence of attachment points for connecting to other components, while surface scratches and indentations indicate operational use rather than decorative purposes. If genuine, the aluminum wedge of Ayyub represents evidence of metallurgical capabilities that predate known technological development by thousands of years. It suggests either advanced prehistoric civilizations with industrial knowledge beyond current historical understanding, or contamination of archaeological sites through processes we don't comprehend. The Klerksdorp spheres, precision from deep time. In the depths of South African mines, embedded in rock formations dated to 2.8 billion years old, workers have discovered hundreds of metallic spheres that display characteristics suggesting artificial manufacture. These objects present perhaps the most chronologically impossible mystery in all of archaeology. The spheres measure between 1 and 4 inches in diameter and show remarkably uniform construction. Many display 3 parallel grooves around their circumference that appear deliberately carved rather than naturally formed. The sphere's composition includes iron, nickel, and rare earth elements in proportions that suggest controlled alloying processes requiring advanced metallurgical knowledge. What makes the Klerksdorp spheres truly extraordinary is their geological context. The rock formations containing them date to the Precambrian era, long before complex life was supposed to exist on Earth. If the spheres are artificial, they represent technology predating the evolution of multicellular organisms by billions of years. The spheres display perfect balance when spun and show manufacturing precision that would be difficult to achieve even with modern techniques. Their uniform size distribution and consistent groove patterns indicate systematic production rather than random natural formation. X-ray analysis reveals that some spheres contain internal structures, hollow chambers or embedded components that suggest sophisticated three-dimensional engineering. Scientific analysis has failed to identify natural geological processes that could produce such uniform, geometrically precise objects. The sphere's metallic composition and internal complexity don't match known mineral formation patterns or natural concretion processes. Mainstream geology explains the spheres as unusual concretions formed through natural chemical processes in ancient rock. Yet this explanation struggles to account for the geometric precision, consistent manufacturing tolerances, and systematic groove patterns observed across hundreds of specimens found across wide geographical areas. The Nazca lines, messages for the sky. Carved into Peru's desert plateau with impossible precision, are lines and figures so massive they can only be properly viewed from the air. The Nazca lines represent one of archaeology's most bewildering achievements. Geoglyphs created by a civilization that supposedly never developed flight technology, yet designed specifically for aerial observation. The lines include perfectly straight paths extending for miles across varied terrain, with surveying accuracy that modern engineers find difficult to achieve. Some lines are over 30 miles long, yet deviate by less than a few yards across their entire length. Creating such precision without aerial perspective would require advanced mathematical knowledge and surveying techniques that challenge our understanding of pre-Columbian capabilities. The animal figures including a spider, monkey, hummingbird, and whale, are drawn with anatomical accuracy that suggests intimate knowledge of species not native to the desert region where they were created. The whale figure, in particular, shows detailed understanding of marine mammal anatomy that seems impossible for an inland desert civilization. Recent analysis using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar has revealed that the lines extend far beyond what's visible on the surface. Underground, the geometric patterns continue in 3 dimensions, creating complex networks of shapes and forms that suggest purposes we can't even imagine. The lines show no evidence of foot traffic, indicating they weren't designed for walking, but for observation from above. Their preservation in one of Earth's driest climates seems almost intentionally designed to last for millennia, as if their creators expected them to be discovered by more technologically advanced civilizations. Carbon dating of organic materials found beneath the lines confirms their creation between 500 BCE and 500 CE by the Nazca culture. Yet the sophistication of the surveying, the scale of the undertaking, and the apparent aerial perspective required for their design suggests capabilities far beyond what we attribute to pre-Columbian American societies. The Puma Punku precision, impossible stone mastery. High in the Bolivian Andes, at an altitude where modern construction equipment struggles to function, lies Puma Punku, a complex of stone ruins that displays machining precision impossible to achieve with primitive tools. The site's massive stone blocks show evidence of cutting, drilling, and shaping techniques that seem to require advanced machinery rather than hand tools. The blocks are cut from extremely hard andesite and diorite stone, materials so tough that they dull steel tools quickly. Yet the surfaces at Puma Punku show perfectly straight edges, precise right angles, and complex interlocking joints that fit together with tolerances measured in millimeters. Many blocks contain perfectly round holes drilled to consistent depths, with walls so smooth they appear machine polished. The drilling shows no evidence of the spiral patterns that would result from rotary tools, suggesting cutting techniques that modern engineers can't easily explain. The block's shapes are geometrically complex, featuring multiple surfaces that intersect at precise angles to create 3-dimensional puzzle pieces that fit together in specific configurations. The mathematical knowledge required to design and execute such precision seems far beyond the capabilities attributed to pre-Columbian civilizations. Most puzzling is how these massive blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, were transported to the site across difficult mountain terrain. The nearest quarries are located miles away, and moving such weights would challenge modern heavy equipment. The logistics of ancient construction at Puma Punku remain completely unexplained. The precision of the stonework has led some researchers to propose that the builders possessed lost technologies or knowledge that allowed them to soften stone for easier cutting and shaping. While no evidence supports such exotic theories, conventional explanations fail to account for the level of precision observed throughout the site. The Abydos helicopter, ancient aviation hieroglyphs. Carved into the stone walls of the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, Egypt, are hieroglyphs that appear to depict modern aircraft with disturbing accuracy. These aren't vague symbols open to interpretation. They show detailed representations of helicopters, submarines, and aircraft that match contemporary designs with precision that seems impossible for ancient artwork. The carvings appear among conventional hieroglyphs in contexts suggesting they held the same documentary significance as other historical inscriptions. They're positioned alongside records of military campaigns and religious ceremonies, indicating they were intended as legitimate historical documentation rather than artistic fantasy or symbolic representation. The helicopter image shows rotor configurations, fuselage details, and structural elements that precisely match modern rotorcraft design. The submarine depiction includes hull shapes, conning tower features, and proportional relationships that correspond to actual naval architecture. aircraft representations display aerodynamic characteristics consistent with powered flight technology. Mainstream archaeology explains these images as palimpsests, carved over inscriptions where later modifications created accidental resemblances to modern machinery. Yet this explanation fails to account for the remarkable detail and anatomical accuracy of the supposed coincidental forms. What makes these hieroglyphs particularly intriguing is their location within a temple dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian god associated with resurrection and celestial travel. Ancient Egyptian religious texts describe Osiris journeying through the sky in divine vehicles and celestial boats that might represent actual technological devices rather than mythological symbols. The precision of the aircraft depictions implies direct observation rather than imaginative speculation. If ancient Egyptians possessed no knowledge of powered flight, how could their artists create images that match modern aircraft design with such accuracy? The hieroglyphs suggest either remarkable coincidence or knowledge of aviation technology that predates its supposed invention by thousands of years. These discoveries we've explored represent more than simple archaeological curiosities. They're evidence that suggests our entire understanding of human development, technological capability, and historical chronology might be fundamentally flawed. Each artifact forces us to confront possibilities that challenge the very foundations of how we understand our past and our place in the universe. Whether these objects represent genuine anomalies that demand revolutionary revision of human history, or elaborate hoaxes designed to exploit our fascination with mystery, they share one common characteristic. They refuse to fit comfortably within the boundaries of orthodox historical thinking. They suggest that perhaps the story we tell ourselves about human advancement, a steady, linear progression from primitive to sophisticated, might be far more complex, mysterious, and extraordinary than we've ever dared to imagine. They hint at the possibility that knowledge, capabilities, and even entire civilizations might have risen and fallen throughout human history, leaving behind only tantalizing traces of achievements that seem impossible for their supposed time periods. As we stand at the threshold of new archaeological discoveries and advanced analytical techniques, these mysteries continue to multiply rather than resolve. Each new find seems to raise more questions than answers, pushing the boundaries of the possible further into realms that challenge our most basic assumptions about reality itself. The implications extend far beyond academic archaeology. If even a fraction of these discoveries represent genuine anomalies, they suggest that human potential, ancient knowledge, and the true timeline of technological development might be far more remarkable than anything we currently comprehend. The Forbidden Archive, when governments hide history. But what if I told you that locked away in government vaults and private collections around the world lie artifacts so dangerous, so reality-shattering, that they've been deliberately hidden from public view? What if the most impossible discoveries we've explored tonight represent only the tip of an iceberg, whose true size would fundamentally alter human civilization itself? Deep in the basement levels of the Smithsonian Institution, behind doors marked authorized personnel only, sit crates that haven't been opened in decades. Inside these forgotten containers lie artifacts that tell stories too impossible to share, too revolutionary to acknowledge, too threatening to the established order to ever see the light of day. Consider this. Every artifact we've examined tonight made it into museums, research papers, or public consciousness despite their impossibility. But what about the discoveries that were deemed too dangerous for even limited disclosure? What about the finds that were immediately classified, confiscated, or simply made to disappear? Former Smithsonian employees have whispered about warehouses filled with giant skeletons that don't match any known human populations. Archaeological teams have reported discoveries of clearly artificial structures in geological layers millions of years older than they should be, only to watch their funding vanish and their findings buried in bureaucratic silence. There's a pattern here that goes beyond simple academic caution or scientific skepticism. When discoveries challenge fundamental assumptions about human development too dramatically, when they threaten entire industries built on current historical models, when they suggest truths that could destabilize social and religious foundations, they don't just face skepticism, they face systematic suppression. The Antarctic anomalies, ice that hides impossible truths. Nowhere is this pattern more evident than in the frozen wastes of Antarctica, where military expeditions have discovered things that officially don't exist. In 1946, Admiral Richard Byrd led Operation High Jump, the largest Antarctic expedition in history, with over 4,000 men and advanced military equipment. The mission was supposed to last 8 months, but returned after just 8 weeks, citing hostile action from unidentified sources. Byrd's subsequent interviews described encounters with technology beyond anything possessed by known nations. Aircraft that could travel from pole to pole at incredible speeds, structures beneath the ice that showed signs of artificial construction, and geographical features that didn't match any known maps of the continent. Modern satellite imagery has revealed massive anomalies beneath Antarctic ice sheets, geometric structures too regular to be natural, heat signatures that suggest active facilities in regions where no human presence should exist, and electromagnetic readings that indicate technological activity in areas supposedly uninhabited since the ice formed millions of years ago. Ground-penetrating radar has detected what appear to be vast hollow spaces beneath the ice, some large enough to contain entire cities. The spaces show structural characteristics consistent with artificial construction rather than natural cave formation. Yet access to these areas remains strictly controlled by international treaty, with severe penalties for unauthorized exploration. Scientists working in Antarctica have reported discovering artifacts and structures that were immediately confiscated by military personnel. Research teams have been evacuated from sites without explanation, their findings classified under national security provisions. The pattern suggests discoveries significant enough to warrant the highest levels of secrecy. The Vatican's secret archives, guardians of forbidden knowledge. Perhaps no institution has been more systematic in controlling historical narrative than the Vatican, whose secret archives contain over 50 miles of shelving filled with documents, artifacts, and records spanning 2 millennia. While officially focused on religious matters, these archives reportedly contain evidence of discoveries that would revolutionize our understanding of human history. Former Vatican insiders have described chambers containing artifacts that predate known civilization by impossible margins. Stone tablets with writing systems that don't match any known language, metallic objects displaying impossible metallurgy, and astronomical records that suggest knowledge of celestial mechanics far beyond ancient capabilities. The Vatican's historical role as repository for artifacts confiscated during various crusades and inquisitions means their archives likely contain evidence from civilizations that were systematically destroyed or suppressed. Knowledge that threatened church doctrine wasn't just banned, it was physically removed from circulation and locked away where it couldn't challenge official narratives. Documents leaked from Vatican sources describe archaeological expeditions sponsored by the Church specifically to locate and secure artifacts that might contradict established religious or historical timelines. These missions operated with the explicit goal of preventing dangerous knowledge from reaching public awareness. The Church's historical pattern of suppressing scientific discoveries that challenged their worldview suggests their archaeological suppression follows similar motivations. Just as they opposed heliocentrism and evolution, they may be actively concealing evidence that would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its origins and capabilities. The Rockefeller Foundation files, Controlling Archaeological Narrative. The influence of wealthy foundations and private interests in shaping archaeological narrative extends far beyond simple funding decisions. Internal documents from major foundations reveal coordinated efforts to control which discoveries receive attention and which disappear from academic discourse. The Rockefeller Foundation's involvement in archaeological expeditions throughout the 20th century included specific provisions for handling discoveries that might challenge established historical timelines. Contracts with expedition leaders contained clauses requiring immediate notification of any finds that suggested advanced prehistoric civilizations or technologies. When such discoveries occurred, Foundation representatives would arrive to assess their implications for existing educational and social structures. Artifacts deemed too disruptive were either confiscated for further study or reinterpreted through more conventional explanations that maintained historical orthodoxy. This pattern extended to academic careers as well. Researchers who insisted on pursuing controversial discoveries found their funding withdrawn, their positions eliminated, and their professional reputations systematically destroyed. The message was clear: conform to acceptable narratives or face professional extinction. The Foundation's influence over textbook publishers, educational curricula, and museum exhibitions ensured that even discoveries that couldn't be completely suppressed would be presented in ways that minimized their revolutionary implications. Gradual revision of historical understanding was acceptable. Sudden paradigm shifts were not. The Brookhaven incident, when science becomes too dangerous. In 1952, a routine archaeological survey near Brookhaven National Laboratory uncovered something that prompted immediate military intervention. Workers excavating for a new facility discovered a metallic structure embedded in rock layers dating back millions of years. A finding that should have revolutionized our understanding of technological development on Earth. Instead of scientific celebration, the discovery triggered a massive security operation. The site was immediately cordoned off. All workers were sworn to secrecy under national security provisions, and the artifact was removed to an undisclosed location. Official records of the incident were classified and remain so to this day. Witnesses described a complex metallic construction, displaying manufacturing techniques beyond anything in the historical record. The object showed signs of advanced metallurgy, precision engineering, and design principles that suggested technological sophistication far exceeding prehistoric capabilities. The military's response suggested the artifact's implications extended beyond simple historical revision. The speed and scope of the security operation indicated concerns about how such a discovery might affect national security, technological development programs, or international relations. Similar incidents at other government facilities have followed identical patterns: immediate classification, witness intimidation, and complete removal of all evidence from public access. The consistency suggests established protocols for handling discoveries that challenge fundamental assumptions about human technological development. The Australian suppression, continent-wide archaeological censorship. Australia's vast interior contains some of the world's most puzzling archaeological sites, yet access to these locations remains severely restricted through a complex web of regulations that seem designed more to prevent discovery than protect cultural heritage. Aboriginal communities have preserved oral traditions describing technological capabilities and historical events that predate conventional timelines by tens of thousands of years. These accounts describe aircraft, advanced construction techniques, and interactions with beings possessing capabilities far beyond those attributed to prehistoric humans. Archaeological sites throughout Australia show evidence supporting these traditional accounts. Megalithic constructions displaying impossible precision, artifacts suggesting advanced metallurgy, and rock art depicting technological devices that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric times. Yet systematic exploration of these sites faces bureaucratic obstacles that effectively prevent independent investigation. Research permits are denied without explanation. Expedition funding is withdrawn at critical moments, and researchers who persist in pursuing controversial discoveries find themselves facing legal challenges that destroy their careers. The Australian government's response to requests for information about these sites consistently involves national security exemptions, cultural sensitivity claims, and bureaucratic delays that effectively prevent public access to evidence that might challenge established historical narratives. The Siberian Silence: Russia's hidden archaeological secrets. The vast expanses of Siberia contain archaeological mysteries that may be among the most significant on Earth. Yet information about discoveries in this region remains strictly controlled by government agencies that treat archaeological findings as state secrets. Soviet-era expeditions in Siberia reportedly uncovered evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations, including structures that displayed impossible construction techniques and artifacts that suggested technological capabilities far beyond accepted historical timelines. These discoveries were immediately classified under military secrecy provisions. Modern Russian archaeological efforts continue this pattern of secrecy, with significant discoveries being removed from public access and researchers facing severe restrictions on publishing their findings. The consistency of this suppression suggests discoveries significant enough to warrant the highest levels of government control. Leaked reports from Russian scientific institutions describe artifacts that challenge fundamental assumptions about human development. Metallic objects with impossible compositions, structures showing evidence of advanced engineering, and technological devices that shouldn't exist in prehistoric contexts. The Russian government's treatment of these discoveries as matters of national security indicates their implications extend far beyond academic archaeology into areas considered vital to state interests. The Chinese Wall of Silence: Ancient Secrets Under State Control. China's archaeological suppression operates on a scale that dwarfs efforts in other nations, with entire regions declared off-limits to foreign researchers and discoveries that challenge official historical narratives being systematically concealed or reinterpreted. The Chinese government maintains strict control over all archaeological activities within its borders, with foreign researchers facing severe restrictions and domestic archaeologists operating under guidelines that prioritize political considerations over scientific accuracy. Discoveries that suggest advanced prehistoric civilizations or challenge the official narrative of Chinese historical development face immediate suppression through a combination of academic pressure, legal restrictions, and professional consequences for researchers who refuse to conform. Internal reports from Chinese archaeological institutions describe findings that would revolutionize understanding of human technological development. Precision-engineered structures predating known civilizations, artifacts displaying impossible metallurgical techniques, and evidence of technological capabilities that exceed conventional historical timelines. The systematic nature of this suppression suggests coordination at the highest levels of government, with archaeological discoveries being treated as matters of national security rather than scientific inquiry. The pattern emerges: systematic suppression of impossible history. When we examine these cases of archaeological suppression across different nations, institutions, and time periods, a clear pattern emerges. Discoveries that challenge fundamental assumptions about human development don't simply face academic skepticism. They face systematic efforts to prevent public awareness of their implications. The consistency of this suppression across different cultures, political systems, and institutional structures suggests coordination that transcends national boundaries. Whether through direct communication or parallel recognition of shared interests, powerful institutions worldwide appear to have reached similar conclusions about the dangers of revolutionary archaeological discoveries. The pattern includes immediate confiscation of controversial artifacts, professional destruction of researchers who refuse to conform, bureaucratic obstacles that prevent independent investigation, and systematic reinterpretation of findings to minimize their revolutionary implications. This suppression operates through multiple mechanisms: academic pressure that destroys careers, legal restrictions that prevent access to sites, funding withdrawal that terminates research, and media control that limits public awareness of controversial discoveries. The scale and consistency of these efforts suggest that the artifacts we've examined tonight, remarkable as they are, represent only the discoveries that escaped complete suppression. The truly revolutionary findings remain locked away, their implications too dangerous for public consumption. The technology of suppression, modern tools for ancient secrets. Modern surveillance and control technologies have made archaeological suppression far more sophisticated than simple confiscation of artifacts. Digital tracking systems monitor researchers' communications. Satellite surveillance observes excavation sites, and electronic interference can disrupt equipment used to document controversial discoveries. Research institutions face coordinated pressure through funding restrictions, regulatory challenges, and professional isolation that effectively prevents serious investigation of controversial sites. The tools of suppression have evolved to match the tools of discovery. Academic publishing systems filter out research that challenges established narratives through peer review processes that prioritize conformity over accuracy. Controversial findings face publication delays, editorial suppression, and systematic exclusion from mainstream scientific discourse. Museum exhibition policies ensure that even artifacts that can't be completely hidden are presented within acceptable interpretive frameworks that minimize their revolutionary implications. Display contexts, accompanying explanations, and curatorial choices shape public understanding in ways that preserve established narratives. Educational systems reinforce these limitations through textbook content that ignores controversial discoveries, curriculum standards that discourage inquiry into forbidden topics, and teacher training that perpetuates orthodox interpretations of human development. The underground network, preserving forbidden knowledge. Despite systematic suppression efforts, networks of researchers, collectors, and witnesses continue to preserve evidence of impossible archaeological discoveries. These informal networks operate outside official channels, sharing information through private communications and underground publications. Former government employees with access to classified archaeological materials occasionally leak information about discoveries that have been officially suppressed. These revelations provide glimpses into the scope of hidden evidence and the mechanisms used to control its dissemination. Private collectors sometimes acquire artifacts through channels that bypass official restrictions, preserving physical evidence that might otherwise disappear into government warehouses or institutional storage facilities where public access is impossible. Independent researchers using modern analytical techniques continue to discover evidence that challenges established narratives, despite facing professional and personal risks for pursuing controversial topics. The internet has created new possibilities for sharing suppressed information, though it has also enabled more sophisticated forms of disinformation designed to discredit legitimate discoveries by associating them with obviously false claims. The price of truth. What happens when history changes? The systematic suppression of revolutionary archaeological discoveries reflects recognition that certain truths carry costs that powerful institutions are unwilling to pay. Historical narratives form the foundation for educational systems, religious beliefs, economic structures, and political authority. Evidence that suggests advanced prehistoric civilizations would challenge the linear progression narrative that justifies current technological and social hierarchies. If ancient peoples possessed capabilities that match or exceed modern achievements, the assumption of inevitable progress becomes questionable. Religious institutions would face challenges to creation narratives, historical timelines, and doctrinal foundations if evidence confirmed the existence of advanced civilizations predating accepted religious chronologies. Educational systems built around established historical frameworks would require complete reconstruction if fundamental assumptions about human development proved incorrect. The costs of such revision extend far beyond simple textbook changes. Economic interests tied to current technological paradigms might face disruption if suppressed discoveries revealed advanced ancient technologies that could revolutionize modern industries. Political structures that derive legitimacy from claims of progressive social development would face challenges if evidence suggested that advanced civilizations had risen and fallen throughout human history. The moment of revelation, when suppression fails. Despite systematic efforts to control archaeological narrative, the accumulation of suppressed evidence eventually reaches critical mass, where continued concealment becomes impossible. Modern analytical techniques, global communication networks, and increasing numbers of controversial discoveries create pressure that challenges traditional suppression mechanisms. Satellite imagery reveals anomalies that can't be explained through conventional archaeology, forcing recognition of structures and sites that challenge established timelines. Ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic surveys, and other remote sensing technologies detect evidence that exists beyond the reach of traditional suppression methods. International collaboration among researchers creates networks that transcend national boundaries and institutional controls, making coordinated suppression more difficult to maintain. Information sharing through digital channels enables rapid dissemination of controversial discoveries before suppression mechanisms can respond effectively. Public interest in alternative history and archaeological mysteries creates demand for information that bypasses traditional academic and media gatekeepers. Popular curiosity about suppressed discoveries drives investigation that operates outside official channels. The convergence of these factors suggests that the era of effective archaeological suppression may be ending, replaced by a period of revelation where long-hidden truths about human history begin to emerge despite institutional resistance. The final question: what happens next? As we stand at this crossroads between official history and suppressed truth, between comfortable narratives and revolutionary discoveries, between institutional control and emerging revelation, we face questions that extend far beyond simple archaeological curiosity. If even a fraction of the suppressed discoveries represent genuine evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations, the implications cascade through every aspect of human understanding. Our assumptions about technological development, social progress, religious truth, and human potential would require fundamental revision. The artifacts we've explored tonight, impossible as they seem, may represent only the beginning of revelations that challenge the very foundations of how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. The truly revolutionary discoveries remain locked away, their implications too profound for immediate disclosure. But suppression has its limits. Truth has a way of emerging despite institutional resistance, and the accumulation of impossible evidence eventually reaches critical mass where denial becomes more difficult than acceptance. The question isn't whether these suppressed truths will eventually emerge, it's whether we're prepared for the implications when they do. Are we ready to confront the possibility that everything we thought we knew about human history might be fundamentally wrong? Are we prepared to rebuild our understanding of civilization, technology, and human potential from the ground up? The artifacts scattered across museums and private collections worldwide whisper of a past far stranger and more remarkable than official history acknowledges. The suppressed discoveries locked away in government vaults and institutional storage facilities speak of truths that could revolutionize human understanding. And somewhere in the depths of classified archives and forgotten warehouses, the most impossible discoveries of all wait patiently for the day when humanity is finally ready to confront the full scope of its mysterious and extraordinary past. The evidence exists. The truth waits. The only question is whether we have the courage to face what we might discover when the final veils of suppression are finally lifted and the impossible becomes undeniably real. But perhaps the most chilling realization of all is this: if such systematic suppression has been possible for the discoveries we know about, What other truths about reality itself might be hidden behind walls of secrecy so complete that we don't even know enough to ask the right questions? The mystery continues, deeper and more profound than we ever imagined, waiting in the shadows of forbidden knowledge where the impossible becomes inevitable, and where the truth about our past may be far more extraordinary than even our wildest speculations have dared to suggest. The truth is, every artifact we've examined tonight exists in our world today, sitting in museums, private collections, and research facilities where you could theoretically see them with your own eyes. But what if I told you that the most impossible discoveries of all aren't hiding in government vaults or classified archives? What if they're scattered across our planet in plain sight, masquerading as natural formations, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize them for what they truly are? Deep in the Amazon rainforest, satellite imagery has revealed geometric patterns so vast and precise that they're only visible from space. Straight lines stretching for miles through dense jungle, perfect circles carved into landscapes that have remained untouched by human civilization for millennia. These aren't ancient roads or ceremonial sites recorded in any historical document. They're structures so large that our ancestors couldn't have built them without technology we didn't know they possessed. The Amazon geoglyphs, precision hidden by time. When deforestation began revealing these patterns in the 1970s, archaeologists assumed they were looking at simple earthworks created by indigenous peoples for agricultural or ceremonial purposes. But as more of the forest was cleared, the true scope of these structures became apparent. We're talking about geometric designs covering areas larger than entire cities, created with mathematical precision that rivals modern surveying techniques. The patterns include perfect squares, circles, and complex polygonal shapes that maintain their geometric integrity across distances that would challenge modern construction teams. Some of these earthworks are over 1,000 feet across, yet their edges deviate from perfect geometry by mere inches. Creating such precision would require not just sophisticated mathematical knowledge, but surveying capabilities that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric South America. What makes these discoveries truly bewildering is their age. Carbon dating of organic materials found within the earthworks indicates construction beginning over 2,000 years ago, continuing for centuries by civilizations that left no other evidence of such advanced engineering capabilities. The builders created these massive geometric patterns, then vanished from history without leaving behind cities, monuments, or written records that might explain their achievements. The earthworks show evidence of careful planning and long-term construction projects that would have required coordinated labor from thousands of workers over multiple generations. Yet the surrounding archaeological record shows no evidence of the social organization, permanent settlements, or technological infrastructure necessary for such massive undertakings. Recent analysis using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that many of these surface patterns continue underground, forming three-dimensional structures that suggest purposes far more complex than simple ceremonial sites. The subsurface components show evidence of sophisticated drainage systems, structural foundations, and geometric relationships that imply engineering knowledge comparable to modern standards. The Coral Castle Mystery, one man's impossible achievement. Moving from ancient mysteries to more recent impossibilities, we encounter the story of Edward Leeds-Kalnin, a Latvian immigrant who single-handedly created one of America's most puzzling monuments. Between 1923 and 1951, working alone and in complete secrecy, Leeds-Kalnin quarried, carved, transported, and precisely positioned over 1,000 tons of coral rock to create his coral castle in Florida. The achievement seems impossible for several reasons. Leeds-Kalnin stood barely 5 feet tall, weighed about 100 pounds, and had no formal education in engineering or construction. He worked exclusively at night, refusing to allow anyone to observe his methods. Yet he somehow moved stones weighing up to 30 tons each with precision that would challenge modern heavy machinery. The castle's construction displays engineering knowledge that Leedskalnin supposedly never possessed. Massive blocks are balanced so perfectly that they can be moved with the touch of a finger, yet they've remained stable for over 70 years despite hurricanes and seismic activity. The precision of the cuts and the integration of the blocks suggest understanding of structural engineering principles that professional architects find remarkable. Leedskalnin claimed he had rediscovered the secrets of the ancient builders, specifically referencing the techniques used to construct the pyramids and Stonehenge. He spoke of understanding the relationship between magnetism and gravity, hinting at knowledge of physical principles that conventional science doesn't recognize. Witnesses, who occasionally glimpsed his work from a distance, reported seeing him manipulate massive stones as if they weighed nothing. Some claimed he could levitate blocks using only his hands, while others described seeing him move multi-ton stones using simple wooden tripods and chains that shouldn't have been capable of supporting such weight. Modern engineers who have studied the Coral Castle acknowledge that Leedskalnin's achievements seem to violate known principles of leverage, mechanical advantage, and structural engineering. The precision of his work and the methods he used remain unexplained despite decades of investigation. The sailing stones of Death Valley, rocks that move themselves. In one of Earth's most desolate places, Death Valley's racetrack playa, massive boulders weighing hundreds of pounds leave perfectly straight trails across the desert floor, as if they had somehow moved by themselves across the flat lake bed. These sailing stones, as they're known, have been documenting their own movement for decades, creating trails that stretch for hundreds of yards in perfectly straight lines. The stones move in patterns that seem to defy natural explanation. Some travel in parallel tracks, maintaining precise distances from each other as if following invisible guidelines. Others change direction at sharp angles, creating geometric patterns that suggest purposeful navigation, rather than random movement driven by natural forces. For decades, scientists proposed various theories to explain this phenomenon. Wind, ice sheets, seismic activity, and underground magnetic forces were all suggested as possible mechanisms. Yet none of these explanations could account for the precision of the movement patterns or the apparent coordination between different stones. Recent research using GPS tracking and time-lapse photography has revealed that the stones move during rare weather conditions when thin sheets of ice form on the desert floor. As these ice sheets break up and are pushed by wind, they supposedly push the rocks ahead of them. Yet this explanation still fails to account for many of the observed movement patterns. Some stones move in perfectly straight lines for hundreds of yards without deviation, while others create complex geometric patterns that suggest more than simple ice sheet propulsion. The coordination between multiple stones and the precision of their tracks continue to puzzle researchers who study the phenomenon. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, precision without purpose revisited. While we touched on these earlier, new discoveries in Costa Rica's remote jungles have revealed stone spheres that dwarf previously known examples in both size and precision. Recent expeditions have uncovered spheres measuring over 8 feet in diameter, carved with geometric accuracy that exceeds anything found at previously explored sites. These newly discovered spheres display characteristics that seem impossible for ancient stone carvers to achieve. Laser measurement reveals spherical accuracy to within millimeters across their entire surface. The stone shows no tool marks, no evidence of the grinding and polishing that would be necessary to achieve such precision using conventional techniques. From the precision-carved discs of ancient Egypt to the impossible metallurgy found buried in geological strata millions of years old, from mechanical computers that predate their supposed invention by millennia to electrical devices powering temples before electricity was discovered, we've journeyed through a landscape of mysteries that refuse to conform to our comfortable version of history. Each artifact we've explored tonight represents more than just an anomaly or curiosity gathering dust behind museum glass. They're fragments of a larger puzzle that suggests human civilization, technological development, and the very timeline of intelligence on Earth might be far more complex, far more extraordinary, and far more mysterious than we've ever dared to acknowledge. The evidence is undeniable because it exists in our physical world. You can walk into museums today and see the Antikythera mechanism's bronze gears, touch the surface of crystal skulls, examine the perfect spheres scattered across Costa Rica's jungles. These aren't theoretical constructs or wishful thinking. They're tangible proof that something doesn't fit in our neat linear progression from primitive to advanced. Whether these discoveries represent lost civilizations with capabilities we've forgotten, suppressed evidence of humanity's true potential, or glimpses of knowledge that transcends our current understanding of physical reality, one thing remains clear. The story we tell ourselves about our past is incomplete. The official narrative has gaps, inconsistencies, and blind spots large enough to hide entire chapters of human achievement. Perhaps most unsettling of all is the realization that if such systematic mysteries exist in plain sight, if artifacts this impossible can sit in public collections while challenging everything we believe about human development, then what other truths about our reality, our capabilities, and our origins might be hiding in the shadows of accepted knowledge? The ancient world whispers to us through these impossible objects, speaking in a language of precision, sophistication, and mystery that we're only beginning to understand. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important discovery of all. That the past isn't a closed book, but an open invitation to question everything we think we know about the extraordinary story of human civilization. The mysteries remain unsolved. The questions multiply. And somewhere out there, buried beneath our feet or hidden in plain sight, the next impossible discovery waits to shatter our understanding of history once again.